Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Lunatic Plays. I'm the Lunatic who plays Cities Skylines 2! Woo! I'm here, I'm back, kind of unexpectedly. I was supposed to stream at 12, but I'm awake now and I was gonna build City Skylines anyway, so I was just like, you know what, I'll just fire up the stream, why not? I know I missed some streams like last weekend and last week, and I was like, I feel pretty okay now. It's the morning, I still have energy. So before I get fatigued again, I'm just gonna do it now. Kind of unexpectedly outside of the schedule, but oh my god, of course. It begins, the fucking errors. The DLC hasn't dropped yet, City Skylines. Calm your tits. Hey Raven. Oh yeah, okay. Pre-roll ads. Hi, Ma. Oh, hey, Raven. I was gonna say I'm gonna be a bastard, and I'm going to gift you a subscription to my channel for for Christmas. So you don't have to watch ads. But only for a month, just so that I can tickle your pickle, and then you're gonna be back to watching the ads. Truly evil, right? Okay, so I'm here. As you guys know, I build City Skylines and I watch it on YouTube. I react to stuff. My ADHD brain won't let me to just watch and react, and also I love City Skylines. It's sort of what I do my channel about, but I also love to watch it on YouTube. So we're gonna watch it on YouTube. And we were supposed to watch the Venus Angelic deep dive yesterday. And if you don't know, Venus Angelic was a early days YouTuber whom I actually was following. She's what you would call a weeaboo, sort of like a, you know, like a Japanese pop culture, but like I don't really even want to say Japanese pop culture because it's a very characterized version of Japanese pop culture that these people generally get very hooked on. She was more like the whole Lolita social circle, social group kind of thing. Early influencer, early YouTuber. I think she was on YouTube since like 2007, 2008. She had a very childlike voice. It was kind of eerie. She looked like a doll. I was following her because I was sort of on that vibe. Like when I was 13, 14, I got obsessed with Japan. I loved anime and all that, and I was a little bit of a weeaboo, a little bit of a weeb. And yeah, I was also obsessed with the aesthetic because like I loved being pale, and then I found out all about Japanese and Korean makeup and makeup styles, and I very much loved the whole thing with the living doll trend. And I even like was wearing contact lenses and stuff like to enlarge my eyes, and it was a whole thing. To be honest, now that I'm streaming, I'm sort of like thinking to get lenses again. just like to do a look or something. Sometimes I feel like all the time I look the same, and I feel like maybe I should just like do something. Anyways, that's not what this is about. We're going to watch the story about Venus Angelic. And she is quite a character. Like, she herself, I would say, is maybe less problematic than her mom, because I am a full on believer that her mom is really toxic, that there's something wrong. But I don't know the full story. Like, I kind of followed the drama as it was unfolding. There was a couple nuggets here and there of controversies and stuff, but I don't know the whole chronological order of exactly how everything happened step by step. I was there for some of it, more like early on. I don't really know the late news, and I don't know what happened to her at the end. So I don't know where she is today. So that's kind of what I want to find out now, because she was a character, and her mom was much more of a character than her. But it's definitely an interesting topic that I kind of wanted to deep dive into, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Okay. All right.
A mother's love liberates. It doesn't just hold. That is ego. Maya Angelou. By the age of 49, nearly 85% of women will be mothers to a child who, like Maya Angelou said, ought to be able to grow into their fullest, liberated selves. A mother's love, in its ideal form, doesn't bind. It doesn't stop.
Wait, 1 second. I wanted to start doing this thing. I'm gonna pin the link for this YouTube video that I'm watching on the chat on Twitch. I think it's a nice little thing I can do, because I know that I'm reacting to content and it's not my content, and I don't always know how can I like reference it, but I'm just gonna post the message. I'm gonna pin it. So this is what we're watching. This is what we're watching. I'm gonna post the link also in the multi-chat so that everyone can see what I'm... Follow this if you want. Alright. Ay, kurwa. Alright. Okay. Okay, cool. This is what we do.
It appreciates and encourages self-discovery, independence, and dignity. It can be your stepping stone into the world. Unfortunately, something that is very apparent in our modern times is that parental estrangement is on the rise, which for me tells us something important. A lot of parents ain't shit. A lot of parents allow their egos to triumph over love and care. A lot of parents probably shouldn't be parents.
Can we just give it up for a second for our girly pop? What's her name? Kidology. I feel like I have seen some things of her, but can we just take a minute to appreciate how well spoken and articulate and insightful she is? Like, the way she speaks and delivers the messages is like, to me, this is like documentary level professionalism. She's very good. I have to say, like, I'm having a very good time listening to her voice.
Parents, at least not when they become parents. But
And her
most of the
script is
time,
incredible.
these parents are lucky. They're lucky that the world doesn't see their parenting, doesn't see the egotistical love, or rather abuse they subject their children to. But sometimes their ego induces them to seek out celebrity, to seek out the red carpet, or post this egotistical love online. Now, the story I'm about to tell you is a crucial and quintessential example of how parenting can make or truly break a child. It's a crucial example of how so many of our societal issues stem directly from bad parenting, and that this issue of bad parenting just isn't a conversation that people want to have because so many people want to believe they're a good parent. And there's so much stigma around being a bad parent, so nobody talks honestly about it, and the harrowing cycle continues. Our subject matter is an example of how relentlessly destructive generational trauma can be if that cycle of trauma isn't broken. And unfortunately, Venus Angelic's story and where she is now is a cautionary tale of what happens when children are systematically failed in the age of the internet. Now, before starting this video, I am going to add this disclaimer, mainly because Venus Angelic's mother, Margaret, whose public-facing online life we are going to dive very deeply into, has a history of deeming public critique as targeted harassment and copyright infringement. All information included in this video is public information and is protected under fair use laws and clauses. This video is in absolutely no way targeted harassment, copyright infringing, or defamatory. This video is entirely transformative. Everything detailed in this video is corroborated with evidence publicly sourced and referenced. I do not condone reaching out to anybody mentioned in this video. Please respectfully keep all comments to my comment section below.
I'm gonna show it to you in front of all the people. Because you know why? Because I love you.
Venus Isabel Palermo was born on February 8th, 1997 in Switzerland to a Hungarian mother and a Swiss father.
She looked in that video like she had a Britney moment, but Let's not judge.
It seems that her early childhood was spent in Switzerland, and at the age of 6, she would appear as an extra in a Swiss comedy film called Ready Steady Charlie. Venus is known for the many languages she speaks.
I didn't actually know that she was an actress. I thought she got famous from being a YouTuber.
And as such, for her very distinct accent. She grew up speaking German and Swiss German. She can speak Spanish, Dutch, Japanese, Korean, and English. She would only start speaking English at the age of 12 in high school. And it was largely due to her starting YouTube that she and her mother decided that if she wanted to reach wider audiences, she'd have to speak in English. Venus begged her mother to start a YouTube channel in order to start uploading videos of herself dancing to J-pop songs. And eventually, at the age of 13, Venus's mother allowed her to start making YouTube videos. At the time, Venus and her mother were living in the Spanish Canary Islands and immigrated to London when Venus was 14 years old. Venus would post about this on her blog, writing, "Yes, I flied together with my mummy by aeroplane to the UK, England, London on the 3rd of November with the help of the second place prize money which I won at the Lottie Fitz dance contest in 2011. And when I read this, I thought, gosh, a 14-year-old paying for her and her mother to immigrate from money she won in a Japanese chewing gum dance contest.
Oh my god.
That's not right. But
That's
nonetheless,
wild.
the two made it to London, where Venus continued uploading videos to YouTube and quite quickly began to gain a following. Now, Venus was what you would call a Japanophile, which derogatorily and colloquially is called weeboo or weeb. This refers to a non-Japanese person who is obsessed with what tends to be a stereotype or tokenistic view of Japanese culture and people. This obsession is so great that the Japanophile effectively ends up denouncing their own racial and cultural identity in pursuit of Japanese culture and racial identification. Think Ollie London and his career failure before he started his equally tragic far-right grift. Now, Venus initially started her channel uploading videos of her dancing to J-pop and essentially trying to emulate
That dude is a deep dive in of itself.
the moves and mannerisms of what is known as Japanese idols. Japanese idols are entertainers who, oftentimes from childhood, are manufactured and marketed for their attractiveness, their personality, and their general stage presence. Idol culture really demonstrates an idol's journey into idolism, and this journey is very fan-based. It's very disciplined and about having a resilient work ethic, not just as an entertainer, but as a human being. Idol culture is rather controversial, especially because of the inclusion of junior idols, who are all underage girls that go through this kind of extensive marketing, this tireless training, and emphasis on building parasocial relationships with fans, many of whom are adult men. Now, for a variety of reasons that we're going to get into, Japanese idol culture was huge among young, specifically white European and American girls online.
And also the thing about idol culture, especially at the time when Venus Angelic is trying to break through into the Japanese idol market, is that it was now I would hope it's a little bit better. I heard different stories from about like talent agencies in Korea and what the K-pop idols are going through. But at that time, like pre-2010, 2007, 2008 era, it was wild. It was like a celebrity manufacturing, like a factory, like an industrialized celebrity. And basically, those people were basically enslaved. Those idols were basically enslaved by their contracts to work crazy hours, not enough reward. They barely made any money. Their entire identity was completely manufactured for them. They would never even use their own name. The persona that was created for the idol was a completely manufactured fictional character that was made up for the purposes of being famous, successful, and making a shit ton of money for the agency. And the idol themselves very rarely got a lot of money from it, very rarely got any say in how their image and how their character, they actually were known as characters, how their character was going to be navigated through the world of show business. So it was an extremely toxic and controversial industry to begin with. But I feel like the exploitation that happened to Venus Angelic is sort of reminiscent of that. But let's continue, listen.
Hundreds of thousands of these girls wanted nothing more than to be junior idols in Japan, and Venus Palermo was one of them. This was a very different time to be on the internet. Venus's aspirations very much fit into the world of an aspiring junior idol. She was obsessed with Japanese culture. She had a resilient work ethic when it came to her channel and building a bond with her fans, and she, like many Japanophiles, had aspirations of one day living in Japan. Venus's fans were called fangelics, and she often hosted meet and greets with an emphasis on building her parasocial relationship to them. Now, it was clear, pretty much from her first few uploads, that Venus caught the attention of the algorithm and viewers. Her channel immediately gained traction, and people were enchanted by her very distinctive look and kawaii, cutesy personality. Her channel would go incredibly viral with the upload of a video in 2012 that now has over 60 million views. The video, titled How to Look Like a Doll, was a makeup tutorial and was very much in line with an online trend which a then 15-year-old Venus was at the forefront of. Living dolls and the living doll aesthetic were very, very popular on YouTube during the early to mid 2010s. Anastasia Spagna is a makeup artist who went viral for her doll makeup tutorials. Valeria Lukyanova was known as the Ukrainian Barbie doll. Dakota Rose was dubbed the real-life Barbie doll and is now a Tokyo-based model. Taylor R. and Andressa Damiani were also famous living doll YouTubers, as well as Angelica Kenova. And of course, Venus Angelic became perhaps the most well-recognized of them all. These living dolls were all in bitter competition with one another for the ultimate living doll status, especially when it came to their numerous appearances on talk shows and the mainstream media. Their appearances on mainstream television essentially became a humiliation ritual. They'd appear on shows, usually accompanied by their respective momagers, and would be berated.
God forbid a girl has a hobby. But like, I feel like there's an important distinction that we have to draw here, because it's like the fact that these girls love this intense look of looking like a girl, this porcelain skin and this intense eye makeup and the contact lenses, and like, yeah, it's a lot of makeup. Yeah, but let a girl dream and express herself artistically. That's not the problem. The problem is in terms of the momagers, like she's mentioning here, who oftentimes would exploit that and try to actually market their kids out and try to give them a breakthrough in classical media, which very much was against it, because let's face it, classic media, let a girl have a hobby, right? So they would go to these talk shows and they would be so scrutinized and they would be ridiculed publicly, but they would also have a lot of love online. They would receive a lot of praise and a lot of attention, which was a lot of mixed signals, because on one way they were kind of like the outsiders because they were going outside society norm by having an intense quote unquote look, but at the same time they were being praised and loved by online communities and the kind of like forming fandom cultures. But the fact that they love intense makeup and look like this and carry themselves in that way and want to be big in Japan, that's not the problem. The problem is the exploitative nature of the industry and the societal attitudes towards ridiculing them.
Laughed at and derided as spectacles in mental illness, literally. However, online, the entire ambiance around these living dolls was inaccessible, popular girl at high school, and that very much speaks to the essence of their branding. I think they were an amalgamation of things behind this Barbie/living doll trend, but I say in crude terms that the early 2010s were defined by one important development, and that development was the proliferation and advancement of smartphone technology, which suddenly brought social media apps into the picture. Suddenly, you could easily and seamlessly watch YouTube on your phone without delay or parental oversight. And as a result, social media platforms like YouTube boomed in popularity, especially with children and teens. The early 2010s were also defined by an obsession with full coverage makeup looks, and consequently, an obsession with unrealistic beauty standards and makeup overconsumption became the toxic norm, especially on YouTube. That living dolls became popular among girls and teen girls with their excessive makeup and cosmetic procedures, with their overweight and doll-like bodies, as well as their it girl online personas, is absolutely no surprise to me. Unlike many
the Barbie doll from Ukraine, she was a bit controversial because of her extensive body surgeries. I think she had her ribs removed and her waist was cinched to such a degree that that her internal organs were unnaturally squished together. So in that situation, yeah, it's when your obsession with going for a certain look directly endangers your body's health and your well-being, like your ability to process food and metabolic functions correctly, like the way that nature intended, like this is a problem. Like if you are stopping your liver function for having a tinier waist, there's a problem there.
Other living dolls at the time, it's important to note that Venus didn't decide to become a living doll. In fact, she was labeled this in her real life from the age of 11 and was eventually dubbed this by the internet due to her distinctive facial features and particular makeup looks. According to Venus, people started calling her a living doll because she naturally looked like one. And in telling us this, Venus would also reveal something else. She would tell us that her mother actually taught her how to do her makeup in a more doll-like way. Venus's mother was born Margaret Palermo. And interestingly enough, she is as famous as her daughter, but for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And we need to preface Margaret before we truly get into the nitty-gritty of this video.
Hi guys,
Hey Angelics,
this is our thank you video.
Okay, guys, trigger warning, parental abuse. Sorry. Margaret is coming, trigger warning, severe parental, emotional, and mental abuse ahead. Brace yourselves.
Margaret/Margot Palermo is an intriguing individual. And the thing with Margaret is that, in my opinion, Margaret sees herself in one way and the world sees her in a very different way. And because of this, Margaret is constantly at war with the world. According to Margaret, she is an entirely logical and practical woman who, against her will, is forced to live among illogic and impracticality. The world refuses to understand her, and as such, she is a victim of our lack of logical and practical understanding. Based on my own personal experience with these kinds of people, there is absolutely nothing you as the world can do for them. The more you point out their illogic, their impracticalities, and the harm that they're doing, the more adamant they become in their self-righteousness. In short, they have to help themselves, which means taking the first and most difficult step in admitting that it isn't the world that's against them. In fact, they are in a perpetual battle with the world. They are in a perpetual battle with themselves, and they are the root of all their problems. Only then can they find the help that they need. But until then, they can't be helped. Margaret has hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of pages documenting her antics on the various local and archival forums. You see, Margaret was Venus's momager, and she took this role very, very seriously. I mean, what 14-year-old uses her dance competition prize money to fund her family's immigration? Born in Hungary, Margaret Palermo would meet Venus's father in Switzerland.
I sort of sensed a little bit of dissent there from our friend, what's her name again? Kidology, from our friend Kidology, about the people upset with the world. And to be honest, like, I agree with her to a certain extent. Like, I think you can very well be disappointed at some of the things that you have no influence over in the world, but I agree with her in the way that I think that no matter what happens in the world and no matter how like unfair life can be, we still do have the power to decide how we're going to respond to it, and we have certain level of autonomy, hopefully, not in all cases, I guess, like I'm thinking like kidnapped victims of abuse and stuff like that. But in a regular setting, if you're not a kidnappee victim, you do have a level of autonomy to decide how you will respond to some unfair parts of the world. And I think that the excessive blaming the world for all of your problems is never a good solution, because the only thing that you can really ever do in your life is to find your way to navigate through whatever difficult problems that life throws at you. So in that extent, I would agree with her.
while he was her boss. According to Venus's aunt, Margaret allegedly intentionally got pregnant in a bid to baby trap Venus's father. And Venus wasn't even a year old when a then 22-year-old
She's
Margaret
one of
would marry
those.
Venus's 31-year-old father. Margaret claimed that he had schizoid personality and that she only married him because she got pregnant. Based on Margaret's own testimonies on Instagram, her childhood wasn't an easy one. She grew up under communism, she had to wear large
Eastern
glasses,
European,
and
of
she
course.
usually had her head in a book and doesn't seem to have done much
course.
socializing. She claims to have grown up with an abusive father and a manipulative gold-digging sister who would suck up her father in a bid to inherit his fortune. According to Margaret, as a child in primary and secondary school, people would say that she looked like a doll, but that because there was no social media, she never had the opportunity to go viral and become famous. Fortunately, her daughter Venus would inherit her doll-like features, and as such, this offered Margaret an opportunity that is all too common with stage moms who live vicariously through their children. I'd say that the numerous controversies Venus found herself in really pointed many fans to speculating that Margaret, not Venus, was the true brand and voice behind Venus Angelic. There were some rather weird posts made to Venus's Instagram. For instance, this post of Margaret asleep captioned, "I'm so obsessed with my mom's cuteness. Look, here she's sleeping." And then tagging Margaret's Instagram was considered odd, especially for a teen. And it was pretty noticeable that every few posts nestled in between pictures of
It's like that meme. I don't know if you guys seen it. It was like it was a meme of a girl in bed sleeping, but you can see behind her that she's holding up the phone and taking a selfie of her, but she didn't realize it. So she put a description of the photo being like, "Oh, my baby caught me sleeping today. Oh, isn't he so cute?" But it was just like herself making a cloud that she has this boyfriend. It reminds me of that.
Venus were pictures of Venus and Margaret, or just Margaret, which always made sure to tag Margaret's Instagram, referring to the duo as besties or my beautiful mum. And although this was peculiar, this really didn't raise as many concerns as would the various public feuds and instances of bullying Margaret and Venus would be involved in. You see, the Living Doll community was, in all seriousness, a very competitive and cutthroat one. I think this had to do with the opportunities the Living Doll brand offered to many of its creators, who I noticed almost all came from Eastern European or so-called small-town ordinary communities. As I said, they'd all vie against each other to be featured on national and even international television. And this seemed to have a lot to do with the dream they were all chasing, a dream of leaving their ordinary, humble beginnings and becoming this new kind of e-celebrity which promised fame, wealth, and an acceptance of who they really were. An acceptance they likely didn't find in their local, real-world communities. I mean, most people aren't dressing like dolls or wearing Lolita creations, and yet online, it felt like every young woman and girl was or at least wanted to. But of course, there isn't enough room for everybody, and there isn't enough hard, stupid amounts of money going around for everybody. Because a lot of these living dolls and Lolitas wanted more than anything to break into the even more cutthroat world of Japanese idol culture, drama was rampant. Venus and her mother were at the helm of this drama. Now, Venus had three notable run-ins with fellow content creators, a then British J-pop idol called Kimono Time, YouTuber Xiao, and living doll YouTuber Anastasia Spagna. What all these run-ins had in common was Margaret's accusation that all three of these content creators were fame suckers. Kimono Time had left some fan comments on Venus's channel, asking her to check out her own smaller channel due to their common interests. Kimono Time had even defended Venus on a makeup tutorial video where she was receiving an unusually large amount of hate, and yet her supportive comments were deleted, and she was subsequently blocked from Venus's channel. Kimono Time then attended a Japanese convention in London that Venus was going to be at, and at this convention, Kimono Time approached Venus, excited to be meeting a creator she clearly looked up to. However, Venus was distant, uncomfortable, and seemed almost disgusted by her. Allegedly, Margaret noticed the two talking and swiftly, very publicly dragged Venus away from Kimono Time on 2 occasions during the event. This became a whole whirlwind of controversy within the Lolita community, and the internet started to see Margaret's true colors after Kimono Time, who apologized for the whole situation, was being bombarded with hate from Venus's fans and, importantly, directly from Margaret herself. Margaret, and Venus by proxy, essentially accused Kimono Time of copying Venus. Their evidence? Kimono Time wore a blonde wig in some of her videos, and Venus wore blonde wigs. Kimono Time was a J-pop dancer, entertainer, and aspiring idol.
Nothing like going online and bullying your teenage daughter's teenage critic. What the fuck?
And so was Venus. Margaret would proceed to write lengthy diatribes to Kimono Time, calling her a crooked, dishonest liar, and to instead find a job, because even people without legs work. You are just missing an eye. This derogatorily referred to Kimono Time having a glass eye. Margaret would allegedly also threaten to sue Kimono Time for
Yeah, no, I think that... I keep forgetting her name. Kidology. I think that Kidology is being extra careful because Margaret is known to sue and copyright strike and send claims to YouTube on literally everything negative that has to do with her. Like I feel like her full-time job is to scroll through YouTube and look for things related to her name and sue them or send warnings or send strikes. Like, she's obsessed with how she's being portrayed in social media. I think she thinks she's Britney or something.
libel after she wrote on her Tumblr and Facebook about the whole ordeal. This was also the first time Margaret made it publicly known that on Venus's various social medias, she in fact, and not Venus, blocked people. Now, without knowing anything about the drama, a popular creator at the time called Xiao noticed that Venus was receiving a lot of online hate because of all this drama. Venus also uploaded videos like one on how to look half Japanese.
Looking half Japanese is the new fashionable trend in
And the voice, like, I was so obsessed with her when I was a teenager, but like hearing it now, I'm so creeped out.
Japan.
And these kinds of videos elicited major controversy and debate within the community. In a nutshell, the online Lolita community and its indirect ties to the online living doll community were pretty much dominated by, and I mean this very literally, white girls. And these white girls and their legion of white fangirls were at the forefront of a growing online movement of what people saw as Asian fishing. These kinds of videos stereotyped Japanese people and culture and really contributed to creating this very idealized, glamorized perception of Japan, especially of the Japanese entertainment industry. And this is very, very important. Remember this for later. Xiao would make a video defending Venus against accusations of her being a weeaboo and Asian fisher. And although Venus was initially receptive to the video, it was later reported by Venus's channel and eventually removed. Xiao, who also lives in the UK, later planned to make videos with Venus. However, Venus would cancel last minute with no explanation and would block Xiao. Numerous anonymous sock accounts were also mysteriously created at the same time and began sending hateful tweets and threats to Xiao. These accounts also only seemed to follow one other Twitter account, Margaret's. Someone would then post Xiao's personal information, her phone number, and racial slurs. Following the backlash and people speculating that the one person behind all of this was Margaret, Margaret would then post a bizarre selfie of herself holding what is known in the UK as a victim care card, detailing herself as a victim of Xiao and the hate group that
Always
were
a
her
victim.
fans. Another controversy involved fellow living doll influencer Anastasia Spagna after her and Venus collaborated on a series of videos together in Poland. Anastasia didn't like how she looked.
Poland mentioned! We should honestly have like a little excerpt of Marilla Maryla Rodowicz singing Niech żyje bal and list out all the Polish things like pierogi, łowicz. That's it. Kurwa! Sandals and socks. Yeah.
in the videos and send multiple messages to Venus to private them on her channel. When Venus didn't respond, Anastasia asked YouTube to intervene, which resulted in Margaret filing a counterclaim and making the videos public again. This controversy, like the previous two, really fell into the realm of Margaret accusing fellow content creators of clout chasing, copying, and trying to undermine her daughter's career. Now, during all of these controversies, people found it hilarious that Margaret was so liberally throwing around accusations of everybody else being fame suckers after they came across a magazine spread on Venus. Now, this spread wasn't even commissioned by the magazine, mind you. Margaret just wrote an article of her own free will and volition and sent it in, as one does. Not in this timeline, but somewhere else, I guess. Titled My Walking, Talking, Living Doll, the article is all about Margaret, and noticeably, Venus looks absolutely miserable. And I think all these controversies gradually showed people two things. One, Venus Angelic and her mother were an antagonistic force that were dead set on making Venus famous at any cost. And two, Margaret clearly had access to at least some of Venus's social media accounts. People noticed that some of the messages attributed to Venus during feuds and drama really didn't match up to her higher levels of English and grammar. It was obvious that many of Venus's messages were allegedly being written by her mother. And during all these various controversies, of which there were many, Venus and Margaret were touring Europe and the world at large, getting Venus onto talk shows in the United Kingdom, in Australia, Canada, Lithuania, and some. Now, these shows are striking examples of how willing Margaret was to allow her daughter to be presented as something of a spectacle for public scrutiny and ridicule. She was presented as an object of amusement, a peculiar child who was essentially mentally ill.
I mean, it's not sort of a normal part of childhood. I mean, I have a daughter too, and have to be honest with you, lovely as you are, Venus, I would be horrified if my daughter wanted to do this when she was 15.
Interviewers were horrified by her living doll persona and her perceived isolation from normal things like going to school and wearing normal clothes. In my research, it was very clear that during the 2010s and the proliferation...
the style, whatever. But the isolation, the homeschooling, the taking her out of society, the forbidding her from having normal life. I think there was a controversy at some stage. She wasn't allowed to date. Like, she was explicitly forbidden from dating, and then her friendships were very highly monitored. She literally was like a doll in a dollhouse. Like, she was like almost kept there. And there was a thing about her age, if I remember correctly, but I don't want to spoiler you guys too much. There was something like, I think her mom lied to you how old she was. I remember there was something like this, like her mom told her she was younger than what she really was. It was kind of, I'm sure she's gonna mention it. Let Kidology do the talking.
Of social media apps among kids and teens, we were at the beginning of a major generational divide in social media literacy and tolerance. These 2010s parents were freaking out about their clear lack of control over the identities and the cultural influences that their kids were consuming on their phones. The mainstream media and older parental generations saw online subcultures like the Lolita subculture as corrupting and sexual in nature, and they were essentially having a moral panic against these subcultures. Margaret and Venus, interestingly enough, created a bridge between these two communities. Venus lived online, but she'd be on all these normie shows watched by boomers who just saw a girl dressed as a doll and flipped out. And because of this, Venus was always berated, humiliated, and paraded as an example of how creepy, abnormal, and harmful online subcultures like the Lolita community were. And I just want to acknowledge how incredibly twisted and cruel this is for grown adults who should know better to create a spectacle out of an unassuming child for entertainment. And although these adults were deplorably exploitative,
but that's exactly the problem. It's like the problem was not with Venus dressing a certain way. She was a teenager. She was exploring her identity. There's nothing fucking wrong with that. The problem is with the adults who were ridiculing her for looking that way, and the problem was with her mother, who has sent her repeatedly to shows like that to get ridiculed.
in their treatment of Venus. She ought to have been protected from these situations from a parent. But it seemed the only time Margaret wanted to protect Venus from interviewers was when Margaret herself was called out or her parental choices were put into question. Margaret's confrontational attitude in some of these interviews was palpable. She would, in one Canadian interview, cover Venus's ears when the interviewer started asking Venus about feminism. And Margaret would make sure to tell us, and I quote, "Dolls are not women and women are not dolls, and let's keep everything practical and logical and don't even talk to me about feminism." The interviewer is stunned that Margaret would block Venus's ears. He points out that Venus is 17 and that when she's 18, Margaret won't be able to block her ears anymore. To which Margaret responds that, quote, "She's not 18 yet," and becomes very agitated at the prospect of Venus being an adult, capable for once of making her own decisions. And in all of this, throughout the peak of her career, Venus was therefore subjected to a twofold stream of judgment. On the one hand, as I said, she was being judged by the mainstream, who didn't seem to care to try to understand what was going on. The mainstream didn't care about the broader toxicity of the living doll trend, which Venus, like many teen girls at the time, was a victim of. It was good fear-mongering content that boomers turned their noses up to, but nothing more. And the mainstream also...
To be honest, like, okay, I'm not comparing myself to her, but I had a journey, kind of like she was one of those factors that inspired my journey when I was a teenager, like 16, 17, 18. I was wearing a lot of like circle lens, contact lenses, and using a lot of these Asian cosmetics from Korea, from Japan, from Singapore, from Malaysia. But to be honest, I was obsessed with that trend, and to such a degree that I was ordering BB creams with skin bleaching agents in it, which is so bad for you, like so bad for you. But I was white as a sheet. I was like a ghost. I was so pale, and because I was avoiding the sun like crazy, because you have to be pale, like that's the whole thing about the Asian beauty standards. And I was wearing like the circle lens, to enlarge my eyes. Like I wouldn't leave my house without them. But like it's normal, like when you're a teenager, to feel insecure about your looks and all that, but I was so obsessed with it. Like it was years for me. Like still today I'm uncomfortable being on camera without my makeup on. But it was huge. Like I wouldn't have left my room without a full face of makeup. And I think that this is not unique for the living doll subculture phenomenon, but I've experienced it in that way. Like I was bleaching my skin, I was hiding the color of my eyes, I was putting a full face of makeup every single day, like it was crazy. It was a crazy time. We were not so socially as aware of the subliminal messaging between these beauty trends and between the messaging in social media, which is why we have to be so careful in how and what we consume.
Had no interest in the intricacies of the Lolita subculture. For the mainstream, teens dressing like dolls and wearing unconventional makeup was simply infantilism. Beyond the mainstream's imagination, Lolita fashion actually has a very deep and somewhat empowering backstory that was clearly providing many girls and women with a means of self-expression, with confidence, and with beauty that our everyday cultural expectations refused to grant them. It was more convenient to present Venus as an abnormality in a derogatory sense. And do remember that it was Margaret who put Venus before the mainstream time and time again. Yeah. And then, on the other hand, Venus was being judged by the internet, the one place she had found community and solace in. In her mother's poisoning the well and making it seem that everybody was against her, vying for her fame and dreams of becoming a Japanese idol, Venus found herself being judged and criticized on her home turf. And I would argue that this twofold judgment meant that the only person that Venus
Hey, I'm a vampire.
could inevitably turn to was her mother, the source of all this judgment and the source of her isolation. And this brings us to the most extreme example of Margaret's mommaging and the detrimental costs that come with it when Venus finally had her shot at becoming a Japanese idol.
This video I show you how I match my makeup to fit with my baby pink frilly dress, this one here.
Now, remember when I said that Venus and other Caucasian Lolita influencers were at the forefront of promoting an idealized, glamorized image of the Japanese entertainment industry? Well, the dark consequences of this world would be seen in what became known as the bodyline controversy, a controversy which spanned over many years.
I don't think I know much about
this
it.
controversy really stands as a cautionary tale against idealizing modeling and specifically the Japanese entertainment industry in the 2010s. Described as the Lolita Walmart, Bodyline was the 2010s go-to for affordable Lolita fashion and costumes. You can just imagine Bodyline's appeal.
God. I didn't know about it. God damn it. No, okay, there's a controversy. I probably it's good I didn't know about it.
To a growing global consumer base of teenage girls who don't have any money and yet want to look like their favorite trending Lolitas, their favorite Japanese idols, or their favorite living dolls. Cosplaying was a huge thing online at the time, and Bodyline acted as the equivalent of Shein for this online subculture throughout the 2010s. Bodyline's business practice was very typical of fast fashion, allegedly stealing designs from other brands and independent labels, a cheap Chinese mass production line, and exploitative promo. And one of these exploitative publicity stunts was the then infamous Bodyline modeling contest. Now, this contest was run monthly, and teens and young women from
I feel like she's getting at something. I dare to say it doesn't exist anymore because this whole thing happened so long ago.
across the world would submit themselves as aspiring bodyline models. If they won, they'd be flown out to Japan, which in the minds of many teenage girls was essentially their foot into the world of becoming a Japanese idol. Now, practically all official information on the bodyline modeling contests has been scrubbed from the internet since the corporation's closure in 2017. May it not rest in peace. But as far as I can tell, the grand prize for the winner of this contest—
You know what, like, I have this reflection oftentimes, especially now, like, I'm revisiting a lot of the things that I used to, like, know or... Avocado! Oh, with their nasty scammer head. Sometimes I watch these things that I was, like, looking at when I was a teenager. Stuff that I was watching. Thank you. Stuff that I was watching, YouTubers I was following, and like their controversies and their lives after and stuff like that, looking at it from a perspective of time. And I almost feel like I time traveled. Like, I don't know what happened. Well, I mean, I know what happened. And the thing is, like, I feel like because I had this drug addiction problem for a while, and I spent a couple of years kind of gone from the world. I didn't really know anything. I didn't research anything. I didn't participate in the world. I didn't participate in society too much. I just did my work. I got high and that's it. And I feel like I missed out on so much. I'm like listening to this and it happened years ago. And I feel like I was in some sort of hole or somewhere. Like, literally, I feel like I was... It feels to me like I was held up somewhere in a cell and released, you know, a couple of years later. And I'm like catching up on everything that happened. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I feel like I was not in the world, you know. It's so wild. It's a wild feeling. I literally feel like a time traveler. It's time travel with extra steps.
was the opportunity for her to be flown out to Japan to have an official photo shoot with Bodyline.
Thank you for the sub, Yorkie. How are you? Good morning. We're listening to the fascinating story of the rise and fall of Venus Angelic, a living doll beauty YouTuber from the pre-2010 YouTube era. How are you today?
As well as a $1,000 cash prize, which for me at least says a lot. Only teenage girls and very young, and I'd argue very naive and impressionable women are going to enter a highly competitive modeling contest, a contest that requires them to make the long and tiring journey to Japan and essentially model and work for free for a measly $1,000. Submissions were also really strict. You couldn't be over a certain weight and height, which for the world of modeling, sure, I guess, but you also couldn't be over a certain age, namely 20. The minimum minimum entry age was also dropped to 13 years old. And again, I think this has everything to do with not just Lolita fashion modeling, but with trying to get away with exploiting young, impressionable, dewy-eyed and desperate teen girls and women who dream of becoming Japanese idols and superstars. Now, Bodyline's CEO was an infamous character within the global Lolita community. Known as simply Mr. Yan, he wore top hats, cloaks, and only Victorian-esque black gothic attire, which made him look like a wizard. He allegedly wore these clothes to make himself look thinner and taller. He was initially seen as a rather eccentric 30-something-year-old man with a clear passion for male gothic Lolita style.
Because, you know, like I don't know. Am I glad? Should I be glad? Should I be glad that Crack found me before Mr. Yan did? I feel like I'm choosing between a rock and a hard place. What the fuck? Oh, you did YouTube, Yorkie. Oh my god. You have to send me your channel. I would love to check it out. But honestly, like, I think that when I was a teenager, I would be so fascinated by this guy. I would be like, oh my god, like, he's so cool. Like, oh my god. And he's the CEO of this Lolita brand. Like, yeah, take me to Japan, daddy. Probably that would be my attitude. Thank God.
And he came to the attention of the Lolita community of
Thank God for Crack. What the fuck is wrong with me today? There is no good conclusion to this story. It's just pain and suffering. Oh yeah, Yorkie, it takes so much time, especially like I don't know if you know much about video editing, but it took I started from complete zero, and it took me like I literally feel like I started uploading almost 2 years ago, and I feel like only for the past 6 months that I'm really comfortable, like comfortable-ish with what I'm doing video editing wise. I felt like I was so lost for so long. Like, the streaming is pretty straightforward, but editing the videos and making cohesive messaging and editing them well and making something that, like, looks right, that you're like, oh, okay, this feels up to a certain standard. Even if it's not, like, the best, but it feels like you've done a good job, you know? Like, because I was so confused about all the tools and mechanics of them. That take your time, you know, and each new project, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Each new project that you do, each new video, is just a learning curve. It's just to catch up on the skills, just to learn how to edit. Each new video you can experiment with something new and really take your time with it. I tend to set myself really unrealistic deadlines, and then I'm rushing to get everything done. Now I do, Yorkie. Now I do. I did, honestly, I'm so ashamed of some of the videos I posted that I delisted a whole bunch of them, but it was gnarly. It was really gnarly once upon a time on this channel.
the Bodyline began featuring videos of him on their website. People found these videos hilarious, and Mr. Yan would immediately become an online meme.
Jesus. Cringe match. Oh my god. Look at Kidology. Yeah, Kidology. Look at Kidology making cringy faces in the corner. Isn't she just so pretty? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your mom passing. I hope that you're doing better now. What was your content about? Was it Cities Skylines related, or was it not gaming stuff?
His mummification was cemented after Bodyline would officially release a full-length body pillow of Mr. Yan, both donning his usual gothic look and in swimming briefs. This seemingly made a lot of business sense because, according to Mr. Yan, he received tons of love letters from the Lolita community, a community populated by a large teen girl demographic. Now, in the winter of 2012, a then 15-year-old Venus Angelic would attend a Hyper Japan event in London. This is the UK's largest exhibition and festival celebrating everything Japanese culture. And at this event, Venus would meet Mr. Yan, who knew who she was. Venus would meet him and his female manager, and a couple hours after saying their goodbyes, Mr. Yan would seek Venus out again and invite her out to dinner. Now, just remember, this is a 15-year-old girl at an event alone, being asked out to dinner by not just a complete stranger to her, but by a man who is well into his 30s at the time. Venus then called her mother to ask her permission to go out with Mr. Yan, and it probably comes as no surprise to you that Margaret said yes. My 15-year-old daughter can go out to dinner with an adult man and stranger. So Venus would go out to dinner with Mr. Yan and his female manager, who proceeded to ask her questions like how many Bodyline dresses she owns, who her friends are, does she always wear Lolita dresses, as well as whether she had a boyfriend. Mr. Yan would then ask for Venus's.
Actually, Transport Fever, I see stuff about it online, and it's something that I'm sort of flirting with the idea of getting into. Is it as good as Cities Skylines? Or is it better? Is Transport Fever the same publisher? Is it also Paradox? Because I've seen a couple of assets that very much reminisce to me about Cities Skylines 1.
Phone number, and the two texted each other for about a year. Mr. Yan would then return to London in 2013 and meet with Venus yet again. This would be the first time Margaret met the adult man who had gone out to dinner with her 15-year-old daughter and had allegedly been texting her 15-year-old daughter for a year. At this dinner meeting, Mr. Yan would compliment Venus on her purity, saying that she looks pure with and without makeup, which is
red flag. If a man tells you look pure, run for the hills. Run for the hills. He's probably... How to say it in a way that it won't inflame the algorithm. A person passionate about children. Not in a good way.
Good. And 2 weeks after that meeting, a then 16-year-old Venus would be crowned the winner of the Bodyline modeling contest. She would be flown out to Japan on her own to become an official Bodyline model. Venus would be put up in a 2-star hotel and on landing in Japan would be put to work modeling immediately. 6 out of the 9 days she was there were spent
PDF
modeling for Bodyline. And mind you, as the winner of the Bodyline modeling contest, she wasn't being paid for this photo shoot at all. She also had to do her makeup and hair herself. The photo shoots would last 11 hours, from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., with a mere 30-minute lunch break. Mind you, this is a 16-year-old child working 11 hours every single day as a full-time model for free and alone in a foreign country. Contractually,
that's a taste of Japanese idol culture in early 2010s for you.
Venus also couldn't refuse to wear any of the outfits they put her in, even the ones she would say she found embarrassing or felt uncomfortable wearing. Now, Venus would relay all of this in a now deleted video called Venus Fall in Dream, where she exposed some truly disturbing information about her time with Bodyline. While in Japan, the only people she was in contact with were Mr. Yan, his female manager called Mrs. Takinami, and a man called Mr. Murakami, who photographed her and designed or replicated all of Bodyline's clothes. On her 3 days off, Venus would go out with these 3 adults, and she detailed a conversation she had with Mrs. Takinami, who asked Venus if she wanted to live in Japan forever. Venus, naturally, like all teen Japanophiles at the time, said yes, of course. And Mrs. Takinami then told Venus that she could indeed live in Japan forever if she married a Japanese man. Venus would respond that she was only 16 years old and didn't think about men in that way, to which Mrs. Takinami would ask Venus what her type in men men would be, whether her type in men might be a kind man like Mr. Murakami. Mind you, when Venus was accosted with these questions by Mrs. Takinami, they were both naked in a natural Japanese hot spring. Venus would reveal that Mrs. Takinami would often try to talk to her about marriage during her photo shoots. Now, at the time, many people didn't believe Venus or didn't take it seriously. At the time, Venus was a somewhat disliked figure in the Lolita community, mainly because of her and Margaret's recent appearance on the TLC show My Strange Addiction. More on that later. A major issue with Lolita fashion that we've already touched on.
Yeah, this shit is crazy, isn't it? Oh. Okay, it's a completely different game, Transport Fever. Can you still build cities in it? Because I see things kind of scrolling past me on Reddit of people like, oh, look at the city I built, and it's like Transport Fever. Like, is it also a city builder?
Is that it isn't taken seriously by the mainstream, and Venus's portrayal of her style as a strange addiction wasn't doing the community any favors. Also, Venus's audience were mainly young girls and teens who loved Japan. They loved Lolita fashion, and I think many of them were a bit too young to understand the true ramifications of what Mr. Yan and his staff were allegedly doing. The ideal of modeling all day in Japan and going out all day and all night with the CEO of Bodyline who thinks you're a cute living doll sounded like a dream come true to many impressionable fans and aspiring idols. But the reality of
I probably would have fallen for that.
all day, the reality of being a child alone in a foreign country with nobody to turn to, the reality of going out with a 30 to 40-year-old CEO who thinks you're an object and knows that you're a child is far, far different. It's far darker. And honestly, researching all of this just shattered my heart for Venus. And it unfortunately does not end there. According to Mr. Yan, Venus was merely upset that she hadn't been chosen twice in a row for the modeling contest, and she simply exposed him and Bodyline out of spite. Bodyline also released a statement.
I mean, it's a classic man in position of authority abusing his authority. It's a tale as old as time.
Calling Venus a princess who essentially didn't want to work but wanted to be treated well. They claimed that she misrepresented her weight and wasn't actually as underweight as she'd led them to believe. They claimed that she also cost them thousands of dollars because they had to throw away all the clothes she'd modeled in because, and I kid you not, her body odor made the dresses unsullable. They said all of this about an already underweight 16-year-old child who they were still trying to get to lose weight and were using as free child labor during a heat wave in Japan. Oh yes, and they took this child to a karaoke room for Mr. Yan's birthday where she danced on a sofa for all the adults. She was the only child there, and I have no words. When it comes to Venus's accusations against Bodyline, my personal
I'm clutching my pearls.
stance is very clear and very simple. Whenever a child makes these kinds of accusations against an adult, I will always, without question or fail, believe the child. Human history is a history of adults abusing and unaliving children and women without consequence or fail, and I have little to no interest in the excuses. Thankfully, the Lolita community did not buy into Bodyline's very bizarre statement, and clearly Bodyline
I like kidology. I think she's very passionate about the subject. You can see, like, you can see how passionate she is about her view and the topic she's presenting coming through, but she's still maintaining a very big level of professionalism, which is really hard to do because when I talk about these things, I get so emotional. I'm just like, lock them up, kill them, decapitate them, you know. I'm just like, I'm ready to bring out the guillotine on everyone. Okay, yeah, because I thought the Transport Fever was just like you get a city and you have to plan like the public transport for it. That's where I was like, okay, like sounds cool to learn something new, but I'm personally just passionate about the creative element of building a city and detailing and like going into the nitty-gritty details of it all.
Lines saying nothing would have been a far better move for their reputation. This was perhaps also because Venus wasn't the first contest winner to come out with disgusting and disturbing allegations against Bodyline. She was, however, definitely one of the first to not make these accusations anonymously. She was allegedly threatened by Mr. Yan for posting her video about her experience with Bodyline and was threatened into taking it down. Yet all the way back in around 2009, rumors were already circulating that the Bodyline modeling contest was a scam, that it wasn't a contest at all, and was simply a way for Mr. Yan to find a young and submissive foreign wife or waifu. Basically, many former winners allegedly told friends and forums that when they went to Japan, they were asked about marriage like Venus was, they went on romantic and highly inappropriate outings with Mr. Yan and his staff like Venus did, and that he touched them and made advances towards them. One model was even allegedly asked to be with Mr. Yan when she decided to leave Bodyline.
Oh, Yorkie, I know what you mean. To be honest, I'm getting kind of worried and low-key thinking of whether or not I should switch to Cities Skylines 1, because I feel like my game started stuttering a little bit already, and I'm gonna get more RAM sticks, and I have a pretty good PC. Like, I made like I built my PC 3 years ago out of like the top specs currently available in that time. Like, I paid a shit ton of money for this computer, and I feel like it's struggling. Like, there are evenings when I'm building Cities Skylines that I don't even have to turn on the radiator in my room because my PC would be just warming my room. Even now, like, it's relatively warm. Like, and I've only done this much. Imagine now if I had like the entire map detailed to this extent. I have no idea what to do. And then on top of that, recording it, because why not? Talking about recording, holy fuck. I just realized something. I wasn't recording this. God damn it! I forgot. Oh, I was supposed to be recording. Okay, well, it is what it is. It's gonna be a cool transition. Yeah, the last hour of video, whatever I did here. I mean, like, okay, what I did the mooring thingies, I did the ladders, I put the blue bike lanes, I did a couple of curbs. You know, these videos, there's so much to these videos that I guess I just like skim over it, you know. It's gonna be included in the transition shot anyways.
Her boyfriend and start a family with him. Bodyline allegedly gave her an ultimatum: end her pregnancy or commit to them and be with Mr. Yan. Nadia, another Lolita who won the contest, was also rumored to have been hit on by Mr. Yan, who was allegedly besotted with her. He actually named a dress design after her, calling it Love Nadia, after she left Japan and as such left him. Another 18-year-old winner who went to Japan was also subjected to Mr. Yan allegedly touching her inappropriately. He also showed off to her, and he even tried to get her to come back to a hotel room with him. By the end of her stay, he confessed his love to her, asked for her hand in marriage, and asked her to stay in Japan with him forever. Remember, she's 18 and he's a man in his late 30s. And allegedly, when she refused him, he made her pay for her airline fees and hotel stay, all of which were meant to be covered by Bodyline because, well, she was the winner of the Bodyline modeling contest. Bodyline still used her pictures on their website and for promotion, and Mr. Yan would upload a video of himself kicking a mirror in order to promote a sale which he called Mr. Yan's Furious Sale. The Lolita community found this pretty funny at the time, given they didn't know any of the context. It was all seemingly a part of Mr. Yan's memeable appeal. However, this mirror smashing stunt was allegedly all in relation to Mr. Yan being furious at having been rejected by this 18-year-old contest winner and trying to garner attention for yet another contest and yet another opportunity to find a waifu. And Mr. Yan pretty much got away with all of this.
Oh my
Girls
God.
and young women kept entering the contest for years, allured by a free trip to Japan and promises of becoming a Lolita model. And I mean, Mr. Yan was a living, walking meme. Nobody was really believing that this comically dressed man was anything but a funny guy at the very least, and a creep to stay
Just like they didn't think that Jimmy Savile was a creep until that bomb dropped.
away from at most. I think largely thanks to him being a meme. Him being a creep was simply something to meme about. For instance, in 2016, a former fashion and Lolita convention called RuffleCon hosted an event called Mr. Yan's Next Top Waifu 18+, where women could enter to compete to be crowned Mr. Yan's next wife. The event's description reads, "The search is on. Mr. Yan himself has come all the way from Japan to RuffleCon to find his next wife. Come join us to see who will be crowned Mr. Yan's next top waifu. It could be you." At least 83 Lolitas signed up online. This was all going down before the hashtag #MeToo movement, and you can very much tell. After hashtag #MeToo, and after I think it was clear that in this new climate, such accusations were finally, hopefully, going to be taken seriously, Bodyline parted ways with Mr. Yan and underwent a significant rebrand away from Lolita fashion. And I only go into all this backstory about Bodyline because I think it really demonstrates the world of exploitation that Venus Angelic was coerced into by her mother. A mother who willingly, allegedly sent her daughter to dinner with Mr. Yan, who allowed him to text her for a year, who allowed her daughter to enter the Bodyline modeling contest, who went to dinner with Mr. Yan where he called Venus pure and told her to lose more weight, and who sent her daughter, a child, to Japan on her own to be devoured for 9 days by jackals who were allegedly auditioning her as a potential bride to a predator. And yet, as a child, she was inevitably dependent on them, on her mother, for parental guidance. Guidance that she was getting in the form of a social media manager who lived vicariously through her. This is so important in giving context to why children who are failed so miserably by adults very often end up in very difficult situations and lifestyles as adults. Which leads us, fittingly, to the expose of
Oh, sorry. I got absorbed by Cities Skylines. Thank you. Yeah, the stream is really, it's really just unexpected. But I really want to finish this. I really want to release that episode before Wednesday. I should have already been editing at this point, so I'm just like binging now. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it done. Ah! Fuck my ADHD brain. And also offering you a free entertainment and a view into the madness that surrounds making these episodes.
of Margaret Palermo and the true grip of her influence and dominance over Venus Angelic.
I am 16 years old and I am a living doll.
Now, Venus really shot to mainstream stardom after her appearance on season 5 of My Strange Addiction.
My mom is my best friend, but she also is my manager, assistant, and teacher.
This was the ultimate confirmation that Margaret was the quintessential example, the reigning queen, the London-based deity of stage moms bar none. The episode basically followed the duration of Venus and Margaret entering her into the Bodyline modeling contest. It involved her making content for YouTube, having a photo shoot for her Bodyline entry, and finding out that she'd won the competition. What was most striking about this episode was how, during Venus's living doll photo shoot, Margaret decided to dress up as a doll herself and had some pictures taken as well, as mother does. In the episode, Venus would say the following about entering the Bodyline contest. "First, I was kind of insecure and unsure. Should I really do the online contest for a doll clothing line? But my mom supported me and she gave me confidence. She said, yes, you can do this. I believe in you." And as we know, Venus went to Japan, became the face of Bodyline, and was most probably forever scarred from that horrendous experience. Now, when Venus was in Japan modeling for Mr. Yan, they went to Tokyo Disneyland. Venus arranged to meet and greet her fans there, but Mr. Yan and his staff prohibited her having her photograph taken, and this was something that Venus exposed them for. Yet one thing people didn't know was that one of those fans who had come come to meet and greet her was a young man called Manicky.
Oh.
Manicky had been a fan of Venus's since she was 13 years old. He would have been 19 years old when he became a fan of a then 13-year-old Venus Angelic. According to Venus, he had fallen in love with her through her videos in 2011. For Venus, alone in Tokyo, it was love at first sight, and I think that because she was alone and didn't have Margaret controlling her every move, she was able to obtain his contact details.
I mean, okay, the age gap is lesser, but it's no more okay.
And they effectively began a secret relationship. I think it's fair to say that Margaret had big aspirations for her daughter. Sorry, Margaret had big aspirations for herself via her daughter. In my opinion, and based on my own analysis, Margaret had one of two options in mind for Venus's future. Either Venus would become so famous and therefore so rich that she'd be able to financially support Margaret indefinitely, or, and I think this was her main objective, Margaret wanted to marry Venus off to a wealthy man in the specifically Asian entertainment industry, like a Mr. Yan, where financially providing for one's parents is culturally the norm, and she'd not only be taken care of for life, but lavishly provided for. I think it was very intentional that Margaret sent Venus to Japan alone. I think it is very unlikely that Margaret, who was serially online and knew the ins and outs of YouTube, content creation, and the industry they were trying to get Venus into, wouldn't have known about all the rumors circulating about Mr. Yan. Japan was an opportunity to get Venus into serious modeling or junior idol culture, and this would have inevitably exposed her to very, very wealthy men. And I don't think that any of this was a coincidence. In my humble opinion, Margaret strictly controlled Venus's sexuality. She chose all of her outfits for her content. As I've already said in an interview, Margaret covered Venus's ears when the interviewer started asking Venus about feminism. Margaret fixated over Venus's purity and innocence, comparing her daughter's virtuousness to other young girls who came home pregnant.
I would be horrified if she comes home pregnant.
Venus allegedly even slept in her mother's bed until she was 18 years old. And yet, on the other hand, Margaret was very much at the forefront of sexualizing Venus.
Like, would this be classified as Munchausen by proxy? Because she is actively making her daughter so dependent on her. And through that, making her unable to take care of herself. Like, would that classify as a version of Munchausen by proxy?
Of objectifying Venus. She, for instance, edited a photograph of an underage Venus to enlarge her chest for a photo shoot. She had aspirations for Venus to become a junior idol, which in and beyond Japan is highly controversial for obvious reasons. Therefore, it was clear that Manicky proved an issue. Initially, Margaret seemed on board with the whole thing, probably because she didn't know the full picture of who Manicky was and his financial prospects. Margaret had probably bet on many things happening for her and Venus while Venus was in Japan trying to become a superstar. What Margaret couldn't have bet on was her daughter meeting one of her fans, who happened to be not a Japanese entertainment tycoon, but rather a somewhat shy, somewhat pervy 22-year-old factory worker. Now, when Venus was 17 years old, Margaret would move the family to the Netherlands. For a long time, people had been speculating that the reason why Margaret moved Venus around so much had to do with tax evasion and a desire to get Venus better global publicity. The two wouldn't stay in the Netherlands for long before Margaret yeeted Venus to live in South Korea. As far as I can gather, Venus and Manicky's long-distance relationship involved Manicky flying out to see Venus and Margaret in, specifically, South Korea. For a brief spell, Venus would seemingly break up with Manicky on her social medias, changing the titles of her videos with him to "My Ex-Boyfriend." She would tell a fan who inquired about where her boyfriend was that, quote, she's not sure, but he's probably still a factory worker living in a small room of a shared house of factory workers. She claimed...
Okay, her mom wrote this. I bet you her mom wrote this. She so fucking wrote this.
that he drank too much and kept things in secret from her, which didn't really fit with what people had seen of him and knew of him. Manicky was a shy and somewhat awkward person, and his vocation hadn't been a problem for Venus before. It had, however, become a problem for Margaret. As her lengthy posted diatribes about Manicky would suggest, it was as if somebody else was writing these things and changing these video titles.
I really didn't want to make this video, but I feel like you're basically forcing me, so so I'm gonna do it.
On February 2nd, 2016, Margaret would take to Venus's Instagram to inform the internet that Venus had run away. It would be revealed that Venus and Manaki had already been married, which allowed Venus to get a spousal visa to live in Japan. A day later, Venus would upload a video explaining why she ran away from her mother and South Korea to live with Manaki in Japan
Oh my God.
on a spousal visa.
In this video, I'm gonna talk about how I run away from
Oh my God, she ran away from her mom. Okay. The plot thickens, guys. The plot thickens. Let's see. I have not heard about this.
home and the reason why.
According to Venus, she was relatively unhappy in South Korea. Her and Margaret were living in squalor, and she was essentially spending all of her time learning South Korean and doing social media. Manoki would come to visit them, and from what he saw, he was worried for Venus's safety and asked her to come back to Japan with him. When Venus asked her mother if she could move to Japan, her mother allegedly became furious, told Venus that Manaki had brainwashed her, was a PDF file, and was simply a factory worker. Venus would also say that her mother had threatened to delete her YouTube channel.
Oh no, not a factory worker. Whatever about the PDF file, but a factory worker!
If she left, and that if she left, she would probably end up ruined, deserted by her husband, and forced to live a life as a homeless sex worker. Venus would also inform us that her mother had always told her that there are many.
I'm surprised in as much that it looked like Venus was very controlled. I felt like she was very, very controlled by her mom. That's why I was just like, I was like, I don't know if she's gonna have it in her to rebel. But honestly, I'm voting for her. Like, I'm like, hell yeah, girl, get the hell out of that toxic mother. I'm all game for that. I don't know if Manaki is the best person to escape to. However, it could be a good first step to independence, even if it's not ideal, even if it's a little bit creepy. Sometimes in life we don't get the best opportunities, but we have to work with what we have. Let's hope that there's no horror stories to follow, that this is a beautiful story of transformation, and that she's okay, and that she finds her strength and she finds her will and she becomes a strong, independent woman, in charge of her life, and that she's gone to therapy. That's my hope. Let's see if reality matches it. I have a feeling it goes places. I wonder how the mom responded to this. Emerald transportation. What do you mean? What the hell it is? Which part? What is the Cities Skylines or the video we're watching?
Millionaires looking for well-educated virgins with pale skin, which interestingly explained a lot of things in relation to Venus studying languages all the time and the whole body line situation. Venus would share a harrowing story of when she was 13 and her mother, as had seemingly become the norm, threatened to end her life in a bid to control and emotionally blackmail her daughter. During this particular incident, Margaret had allegedly taken a knife, threatened to inflict harm on herself before throwing the knife at Venus's head. Venus would say that she learned to navigate her mother's temper and
What the fuck? So, attempted murder, okay.
erratic behavior by watching her words and ensuring not to escalate anything. She would claim that her mother physically disciplined her, claiming that if her words didn't work on Venus, then it was necessary for her to feel the words. On February 19th, 2016, Venus uploaded another video titled Hacked by My Mom, in which she continued to expose the depths of Margaret's control over her social media and overall life. As many had speculated already, Venus confirmed that Margaret had control over all of her devices and social media accounts, and had also locked Venus out of her MacBook from another country. Venus tried to be positive, saying that despite all of this pressure, life goes on. She was going to keep fighting. By March, Margaret filed a series of false DMCA copyright claims against Venus's YouTube channel, essentially shutting down her daughter's entire channel and source of income. Cleverly, by filing false copyright claims, Margaret is then given the name and full address of the person she files claims against released if that person decides to counterclaim. This meant that if Venus wanted her channel back, she would be giving her mother information about her whereabouts. Now, at the time, Margaret, of course, would tell an entirely different story. Margaret would claim that Venus basically stole everything from her by running away. According to Margaret, Venus had married Manaki before running away, but had been unhappy with him and had cheated on him at least once. Venus had hooked up with the best friend of a Korean man Margaret was acquainted with, and Margaret would post a picture of someone who she claimed to be Venus asleep in bed with him. Now, everybody thought that this was Margaret in a wig because at this point...
You know what? What the fuck? Like, whatever about the drama, whatever about her running away, doing this to your daughter? What the fuck is wrong with this woman? Somebody lock her up. Can we just have a petition? Let's lock her up. She's not suited for life in society.
It was apparent that Margaret was doing everything and anything to get Venus back to her. In this video of facts, Margaret would say that she, that is Venus, got her spouse visa an additional 10,000 USD from my work, so she thought it's time to F me over. Wow. It really does sound like she wants her daughter home safe and sound and not, I don't know, $10,000. Margaret would begin to continually accuse Venus of having caused her physical harm. She would accuse Venus of trying to unalive her, saying that although she had photo evidence of the bruises she obtained from her daughter's regular attacks and attempts at strangulation, she didn't have access to them because Venus stole her computer.
You know what? I know that this is highly inappropriate and this is very out of context, but I just imagine like this cute little girl with this high-pitched voice in a Lolita dress going after this adult as big as woman jumping on top of her with the hands on her neck, being like, die, mommy, die, die, I don't want to see you alive, mommy, I hate you, I hate you. Somebody make a horror movie about this. Someone, please. I feel like isn't there one, Megan, like about the robot, right? Like, kind of, no? It gives me Megan vibes. I haven't seen Megan, by the way, but I know what it is.
She would, for years after Venus ran away, post and make these claims, labeling herself as a hashtag parent. Now, this was all very surprising, considering that Margaret had always had a reputation for defending Venus vehemently online and never had a bad word to say about her. She would, for instance, write things like, I adore at Venus Angelic that even though she is bullied since the day she went viral with only 15, her soul is still totally pure like a child's. She is so talented, diligent, and kind and never answers back to any bully or rude person. Very few people in this world are so pure and so strong. Now, however, Margaret, the hashtag abused parent, had done a complete 180, going so far as to call her daughter a stupid before calling her an accident. So essentially, what we can take away from this is very clear to me. In my opinion, Margaret, who was financially dependent on her daughter, was in a tight spot. She was fine with Venus marrying Manaki until, in my opinion, she realized that a spousal visa to live in Japan didn't apply to her as one of Venus's dependents or an additional family member. Remember, as I speculated before, Margaret wanted to marry Venus off to a wealthy Japanese entertainment exec. She wanted to settle in Japan, and she wanted to live a life supported by Venus's career as an idol and Venus's wealthy new husband. Realizing that this was not going to happen with Manaki, the factory worker, and the spousal visa, she promptly changed the titles of Venus's videos and allegedly tried to get Venus to divorce him. However, like the Canadian interviewer had prophesied, when Venus came of age, she very well may start thinking and doing for herself, and that she did. She ran away from Margaret. She stayed married to Manaki and was now financially supporting herself and her new husband. This is every momager's worst nightmare and really demonstrates the pressure Venus was put under throughout her childhood. Margaret would go as far as to describe Venus cutting her off as an act of unaliving me. This would all blow up mainly because, as I said,
honestly, hopefully, fucking hopefully, Margaret. I'm sorry, I know I'm a spiteful bitch and I know I'm not always politically correct, but fuck her. At this point, I wouldn't cry if she died.
Margaret would make some truly shocking accusations, claiming that Venus was a pathological liar and manipulator who had trampled on a dog, bitten off her mother's finger, had unalived a hamster, and as we already know...
Okay, guys, hear me out. Same vision. The little girl with the high-pitched voice in a Lolita frilly dress is now jumping on top of her mom. Mike Tyson style biting off her finger. Can you just imagine the frenzy? Mother! Time to feed! Venus is hungry! I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I can't get this out of my mind.
had cheated before and after her marriage to Manaki. And I just relay all of this to show the extent to which this all blew up online. This was a huge moment on the internet at the time, a truly cataclysmic expose of the reality behind a very carefully curated brand. Margaret would also make a now deleted video trying to pursue influencing on her own, which really demonstrates the desperate situation she was in. In this video, she tries to, and I kid you not, personify Venus Angelic, remaking a bubble foam hair dye video that Venus made on her own channel. People were really beginning to see Margaret's true colors in a way that I can't imagine she ever intended. And these colors really shone like a peacock's tail when, during all of this, Margaret had her infamous spiral into what can only be described as a bizarre, unstable, and frightening cry for help. This spiral saw her traveling in the span of 4 months back and forth from South Korea to Japan to Canada and to the United States, all in a vengeful bid to get not so much Venus back in as much as Venus's income back.
Oh, I heard about Eugenia Cooney, and honestly, I have that video on my list. If you want, we can watch it after this one. Because I came across her multiple times. I was disturbed. I was worried. I don't know what happened to her. I heard she went a couple of times through recovery, but I heard she's ultimately remained ill. And yeah, I don't know where she is today. I hope she's still alive.
As soon as Venus posted her third video about being hacked by her mother, the Venus Angelic YouTube channel would seemingly be deleted. At around the same time, Margaret would also post a nude photograph of herself at an international airport in Japan. Under the picture, she would say that she hoped this picture got both Venus and Manaki to think. She describes her relationship with Venus as a good relationship, which no good person would have disturbed. And this is why people believe that Margaret has undiagnosed NPD and that in the airport she was essentially having a breakdown. She had lost control of her daughter, a daughter who was more attractive and youthful than her, thus making it necessary for Margaret to make it known to the internet and to Venus how attractive she was, standing naked in an abandoned airport toilet. According to Margaret's logic, it's unfair that Venus left her and married somebody else. In Margaret's mind, she not only made Venus angelic,
I send you my notes. Please respond, Margaret. Oh God. That's hilarious.
but the very sentient being of Venus herself. Therefore, everything that Venus makes, like money, by default had been made by Margaret. By default, belonged to Margaret. Now, from February to May of 2016, Margaret was truly homeless, and the drama forums were trying their best to follow her around Japan during this time. It was a feat. To sum it up in one sentence, her activity in Japan suggests that she was allegedly trying to either find herself a husband before her tourist visa expired, or always trying to find a way for Venus to financially provide for her again, and holding Venus's channel under what can essentially be described as ransom was her best way of doing this. During her homelessness in Japan, Margaret was forced to make money by continuing to virtually exploit her daughter. This therefore led to her copyright claiming the Venus Angelic YouTube channel, relaunching the Venus Angelic online shop, and registering numerous domains that she thought Venus may potentially use on social media. Margaret would also go to Venus's house while Manaki and Venus weren't in, and would even on another occasion accost Manaki on his way home from work, filming him and his number plate and posting this online for reasons only she will ever know. However, her efforts were largely fruitless. Her tourist visa expired, she was forced to leave East Asia, and she decided to go to Canada before then informing the internet that she was actually going to the United States so as to officially sue Venus in a court of law. This all occurred in the span of February to May. Mind you, a measly 4 months. If Margaret had put that much effort into getting a job, she'd have been VP of the company by the end of May. Fortunately, Venus's channel was returned to her on May 27, 2016, but unfortunately Margaret immediately filed yet another false copyright claim, which, because YouTube is YouTube, immediately shut down Venus's channel yet again. This time around, Margaret gave Venus a choice. If Venus paid her $3,000 a month in compensation for damages, she would give Venus her channel back and stop copyrighting her. Oh yes, and at this time, Margaret would also make it known to the internet that she had an IQ of 152. Staying in a hotel in Seoul, South Korea at the time, Margaret would take to Instagram in a lengthy post stating that Venus earned $15,000 a month on YouTube, and that she was sorry that as a momager, she'd created a monster, supported her with all her finances, energy, and time. According to Margaret, the Venus Angelic YouTube channel was a joint channel, and because of her momfluencing, the channel was largely her work and essentially made her daughter a thief. Margaret took photos and videos of Venus. She marketed Venus by getting them onto daytime television shows. According to her, the Venus Angelic YouTube channel was initially hers and was hacked by Venus when she made the channel. To this day, Margaret re-uploads videos of Venus onto her own YouTube channel, which suggests to me that she most definitely still believes that she is the sole owner of her daughter's social media output. Margaret also claimed that children should respect their parents and not ruin them. Also, parents are not obliged to do more than keep their children healthy, safe, and educated. Yes, she was very, very safe with Mr. Yan, alone in Japan, being used as objectified child labor and being recruited as a potential child bride. But that's just my opinion. Now, by June, Margaret's antics had made no difference in getting Venus to either return to her or pay up. So she did what she naturally could only do: write and perform a hymn to Venus Angelic. Vanus Angelicus came from my uterus. Botticelli's jealous. You are a miracle. Build your empire, most luminous rose. All the hearts melt when you strike a pose. Vanus Angelicus. Your fans are numerous. You're a doll, beautiful, and you are a muse. Sweet as a chocolate, a strong girl, and so cute. One real unicorn. You are beloved everywhere. It was official. Margaret had lyrical depth, mood.
I mean, it's terrifying, but I can't stop laughing out of discomfort.
And wasn't afraid to show them to the world during a period in which she was allegedly trying to blackmail her daughter for money. By July, internet sleuths would follow Margaret back to Japan, and many people's speculations of Margaret's intentions in Japan would be confirmed when her Japanese Tinder profile was discovered. According to Margaret, she wanted to marry a matching Japanese guy and be happy together. At the time, she was living in a women's-only student dormitory and was essentially existing off her final Swiss child support checks. She also began uploading videos to her own channel, such as a kawaii makeup tutorial, as well as posted an infamous selfie of herself with Venus's favorite plushie toy propped up conveniently in the background. I cannot express enough how bleak things were looking for Margaret. She was homeless, jobless, and worst of all, entitled. That is a truly disastrous combination of misfortunes. And sadly for Margaret, YouTube would officially and permanently return Venus's channel to its rightful owner by mid-July. And
okay, guys, Venus got her channel back. Let's just take a moment, because this girl has gone through hell and she deserves it. She deserves her channel. Yay, Venus. Okay, I got it out of my system.
Unprecedented internet saga would start to gradually die down, much to Margaret's chagrin. Her reputation had been obliterated, and her online existence pretty much revolved around making sure that everybody knew that she'd given up her life to raise Venus and create the Venus Angelic brand. Now, I'm sorry, but I have to say this, and I have to say this loud and clear for all the Matilda parents, for all the horrid Henry parents sitting all the way at the back, because I hate this all too normalized narrative so much. And I hear this "I gave up my life for you" parental tactic a lot. If you decide to have a child and as a result give up your life to raise them, that is on you. 101% on you. You made the decision to have them, and therefore all consequences and all regrets are on you. Your child
Oh my god, I heard this so many times from my mom. But I actually, after years of therapy, I slapped her in the face with, like, not literally, with the fact that I didn't ask to be here, you know, and I felt really victorious in that moment.
has absolutely no obligation to be grateful for your decision to bring them into this world, for your decision to allegedly use them as a cash cow and means of income, for your decision to mommy manage them into the toxic world of living doll influencing. I would go as far as to say children don't need to be grateful to their parents for anything, actually. Radical, I know, but raising your child, providing for them, giving them a bedroom and entertainment, paying their bills, this is the bare minimum when it comes to the rights of the child. And Margaret, based on everything we can see online, wasn't even always providing Venus with the bare minimum. And in the aftermath of this saga, the post-Margaret life of Venus Angelic would reveal how terribly she was let down as a child and the dire consequences that can leave and scar you with as an adult.
I wish people would just stop judging others on the way they are.
Now remember when Margaret was trying to allegedly blackmail Venus into sending her a monthly check of $3,000?
Like, I really wonder, because, you know, like, we know from the Gypsy Rose Blanchard's case that the Munchausen by proxy manipulation tactic goes so deep, and like her voice, you know, she sounds so infantile, she sounds so childish, and I wonder if her mom was forcing her to do this voice. Like, because it happened in the case of Gypsy Rose that her mom was telling her to do the high-pitched voice to appear more childlike, because they were lying, but her mom was lying to her, but then she kind of caught up on it. They were lying about her age, and all the diseases and stuff. But I wonder if Margaret was actually in any way convincing or coercing Venus to put on this childlike voice. Yeah. Was your mom a more of an absent kind of parent? My mom was weird. Like, because my mom had me when she was very young. She was 19, so like I kind of learned to forgive her as well. Because like she in all fairness, she did what she could with what she had. But she was severely traumatized herself. So like I don't really blame her. But for me, it was hard for me to view my mom as a mom. She was more like an older sister for me for a really long time, because she was so young. She was 19 years old, and my father was in the mafia and he went to prison, and I grew up with my grandparents. My grandfather was an alcoholic, so it was just a lot. I kind of grew up with the same like parental figures as my mom, and then the same traumas, because obviously the alcoholism of my grandfather and the violence and everything. So it was like like I could really relate to her, and then at the same time she wasn't mature enough to have any relevant life experience that she could impose on me, but she also felt like she was in authority and the responsibility to be my parent, which was always really weird when she was trying to like parent me, because I couldn't recognize her authority because I just didn't see it that way. Like instinctively I didn't feel it. Like I didn't feel like she was in that position of authority, which led to all sorts of fucked up dynamics. Hi super cunt boy, we're having a bit of heart to heart, welcome. So yeah, it was kind of like a fucked up dynamic all across the board. And that's why like my mom had these moments where she would be like, oh, I gave up so much for you, which honestly, like, okay, she did, but I was not my decision to be born. Yeah, like, well, I mean, you know what, I don't like to compare, because I think like there are extreme cases and we should always find something to be grateful for. You know, like grateful that it wasn't worse than it was, but also to respect that processing difficult times and difficult emotions and difficult situations in life is valid, and that even if it seems smaller in comparison to a more extreme case, if you are processing it and if you are suffering as a result of it, your pain is also valid. Like you are also going through it. You know, like comparing in that sense doesn't really help, because it's important to honor the fact that there was some difficult times and that you need to process them, and that you are valid in processing them, because comparing in that way can also often lead to dismissing, you know, like being dismissive about your hardship experiences and how you process them. And sometimes we need time and we need space to process bullshit. Even if it seems like bullshit, it might be affecting us, you know, and you know, and we can be like, oh my god, but it seems like so small in comparison. Like they're like, children are starving in Africa, why am I depressed, you know? So I think it's important to like recognize how lucky you are, but also give yourself the space to process. And about Cities Skylines, the blue pads, I mean, they are bike paths, but they're not functional. They're just decorative, because there are no bike paths in Cities Skylines 2 yet.
Remember when she said that parents are only obliged to keep their children healthy, safe, and educated? Well, when it comes to safety, we need only look to Margaret allowing an underage Venus to fly out to Japan alone to model for Bodyline, and we can obviously...
I give full credit to my therapist. I've been in therapy for years and years and years, and I love it. I think therapy should be a legal requirement.
obviously counter any claim to safety being a priority. When it comes to education, Venus was mostly homeschooled, moved from country to country, and spent most of her childhood being managed by her mother in pursuit of fame and money. And when it comes to health, we need only look at how obsessed Venus and her mother were with her weight in relation to being a living doll and aspiring Japanese idol, and we need only look at the instance of Margaret editing a photo of her underage daughter's chest to make her chest appear larger for a photo shoot. But this health factor goes a lot deeper. Now, I will keep this brief because this is a very sensitive topic, so do skip to the following timestamp if discussions of ED are not something you need or want.
ED trigger warning, just in case.
To hear right now. Please protect your peace.
What is ED? Actually, I want to know. What is ED? Because I'm like, yeah, trigger warning, be careful, but I actually don't know what that means. Anyways, I guess we're gonna find out. Therapy bills are not gonna pay themselves.
And B, based on what I'm seeing of Venus now, I do believe this is something she is still continually struggling with. And I think that as with...
eating disorder. Okay. I figured
someone
it out.
like Eugenia Cooney, people talking publicly about your ED doesn't actually help. But this is a very important conversation into generational trauma, mental illness, and just as importantly, the darker side of growing up as a living doll. And for that reason, we need to discuss this in the context of Venus Angelic's adult life. In 2016, when Venus ran away to live with Manaki in Japan, she'd contact a surgeon in South Korea to get illegal loss. Venus weighed 53 kgs at the time. This surgeon was a man called Dr. Kang Se-hoon, who in 2017 was sentenced to jail for medical malpractice. In 2014, he performed illegal surgery on Korean rock star Shin Hao-shon, who, as a result of the surgery, lost his life after suffering abdominal pain.
I heard
and
about
high
this.
fever.
I heard about this case. Stephanie Sue covered this. I heard about this. Oh, that was crazy.
Mind you, Shin Hao-shon had gone into Dr. Kang for pretty much straightforward abdominal surgery, and the doctor, of his own volition and without permission, decided to also perform illegal on him. Since then, many other patients came forward, as well as revelations of several more surgery-related fatalities at the hands of this doctor. Venus would travel from Japan to Korea to get this procedure, which involved stapling her stomach.
My God, medical malpractice, true crime is insane.
Removing her intestine, and unbeknownst to her, the removal of her gallbladder and appendix. Now, none of her audience were aware of this, but in December 2017, Venus would be hospitalized for a few days after experiencing abdominal issues and a high fever. By January 2018, Venus would be hospitalized yet again, weighing a meager 42 kgs and displaying signs of being severely malnourished. This time around, she'd be hospitalized for over a month after an infection nearly ended her life. 2 weeks after leaving the hospital, Venus would upload a now deleted video titled "Scared of Getting Fat," claiming that the reason she was in hospital was because of her fear of gaining weight, as well as her belief that she was fat. She'd explain how her weight was and continues to be an all-consuming concern of hers, stating that throughout her life, she'd considered herself morbidly obese, or as she put it, fantasy fat. She would also find herself surprised when any clothes fit her. She constantly compared herself to friends and people online, especially in the living doll community, believing that others were speaking about her weight behind her back. She'd say that although her highest ever weight had been a mere 60 kgs, she couldn't quite comprehend how she wasn't fat and how her weight wasn't a point of social spectacle and ridicule online. She'd also
I bet it's the mother. It's Margaret. I'm smelling Margaret.
After relaying all of this highly concerning information, that although the hospital had evaluated her for an ED, her results claimed that no, she didn't have one. She was simply, and I quote, cuckoo. And I think I know why. Venus would say that in the evaluation, she became what I would call a professional child actor. She put on a bright, bubbly smile. She spoke about how happy and hardworking she was. She told the evaluator that everything in her life was swell and great and positive, and she was evaluated based on that performance. This is a performance that she had learnt from an early age, that she was expected to embody every...
I am excited for Bridges and Ports. I'm also prepared for the fact that the update will break my game, so I'm kind of rushing through finishing up this part of town and releasing my YouTube video. That's why I'm doing this kind of unexpected stream today. I know. And I have to finish my video before that, because when the update drops, the game will be broken for about 2 weeks. So like once the DLC drops, I'm taking 14 working days. I'm not even looking at the game. I'm not looking at the direction. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not risking the corruption of my save file. For 14 business days, I'm not thinking about Cities Skylines. So I probably will be back with more Cities Skylines stuff at the end of November. That's why I'm excited about it. I just feel like I'm gonna get to play it a month later, you know?
Every single day of her childhood in order to quite literally survive. And that, in my opinion, was what she was doing in that hospital and in that evaluation. She was surviving. Venus said that she'd gotten the surgery behind Maniki's back, saying that when she'd initially brought it up with him, he'd said that he'd end their relationship if she went through with it. Now, a telltale sign of her having a was that she did indeed go through with it, deciding to deal with the consequences of the decision later. And I think that her husband's response to her going through with it was revelatory for Venus. It was very apparent that Manaki, as well as Manaki's mother, were a huge support for her during this time, giving her the kind of unconditional kindness and understanding that she'd never experienced before. She started
Oh, okay. I mean, it started creepy, but it ended up somewhat okay for her, I guess. I mean, the main thing is that at least she was an adult when they met. Like, yeah, he was a 19-year-old and she was 13 when he found her online. Thank God they didn't meet at that time, because we would have been watching a very different video in that situation. But that's what I was saying before. It's like it seems to me like, even though it seems a little bit creepy, it's still better for her than to be with the mom, because yeah, it's kind of like we have a saying in Polish about this. It's like you go from under the rain to under the gutter, you know. Like, it's still raining on you, but a little bit less. She has a severe eating disorder and has been abused by her mother. Pretty is not doesn't mean anything.
Started for the first time in her life to talk to people about these harmful thoughts and concerns around her body image. And this clearly helped her through a very long and difficult recovery. Venus would have to undergo very invasive stomach reconstructive surgery and would post a video revealing everything in April 2018, acknowledging for the first time that she had a. She would also say that with the help of Manaki and his family,
That's okay, as long as you're open to being educated.
she was, for the first time in her life, in recovery. Margaret would, of course, take this opportunity to promote her Instagram and share some never-before-seen photos of Venus with the internet. This would also involve Margaret's own now-deleted reaction video and a.
Because there's one thing of, like, not knowing something, but being open to, like, hearing of what's going on, and then there's another type of ignorant of, like, not knowing but sticking to an ignorant point of view, you know. That's it's a very different perspective. Like, I don't mind people not being aware of certain things. I mind people sticking to their ignorance for, like, the point of being ignorant. There are people out there like that, and I'm a little bit allergic to this.
Side-by-side photo of her in similar pajamas to the ones Venus wore during her hospital stay. Margaret would also say that, quote, "We both might die for reasons and consequences of the splitting," referring, as always, to Venus leaving her homeless and penniless. Mind you, although Venus had her YouTube back, at this time, Margaret still had Venus's Twitter and Facebook under a similar kind of ransom. But after Venus's hospitalization, things really did start to look a lot better for her. She began featuring Manaki in her content, and they seemed to be, albeit very young and still figuring things out, in a good place. I would call this Venus's honeymoon period. She was finally, genuinely, financially and existentially free from Margaret, who was God and the drama forums only knew where. She was finally in recovery, and she finally had a family that she could openly and honestly talk to and be with. Venus would even post about how understanding Manaki was of her going through a rebellious phase, because she was posting more assertively and argumentatively about and at him online. This would be the first and only time that Venus Angelic had the space to explore her identity, to figure out who she was beyond being a living doll and a construct of exploitative, traumatized and leeching adults. This would last no more than a single year. In early 2019, Venus made several announcements. Firstly, she came out as gay, which, although very well received, made many people wonder about what was happening in her marriage. At this point,
a bit of a sidetrack, but good for her. You go, girl. Honestly, like, after that lifetime of being objectified by men in this way, I would be gay too.
Venus and Manaki had been married for 3 years. Secondly, Venus would also announce that she had borderline personality. in a lengthy post and cry for help where she said, and I quote, "With mental illnesses, you can't enjoy your life even if you could order everything you want with the push of a button. Sometimes I dissociate and it feels like I'm not part of this world. Food has no taste, music is just noise, and love is a chemical con job. I probably deserve all of this for being a piece of human being." I think Venus's coming out and cries for help online during this time is very telling of the complicated and difficult task former child stars have with figuring out their identities in adulthood. Unlike
I mean, but there's also another angle to this, and this is something we sort of are seeing with the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard was abused by her mom, who told her she has a bunch of diseases, and then Gypsy actually ended up participating in her mom's murder as the only way of freeing herself, and it was a very controversial case. She ended up serving 8 out of 10 years of the minimum charge in jail, and she got out recently, and there was a little bit of controversy about her like relationships and stuff, where she's just trying to figure out her life. But there is a little bit of speculation of whether some of like her mother's mental illness didn't rub off on her, which is something like I've been kind of wondering about. Not to like, I don't want to target this girl, she's already suffered through enough, she should be able to figure it out herself. But I have a feeling like a lot of these mental health issues, they don't go away. A lot of them are trauma related, and there's some of them that actually are genetic, like it comes through generations. So I was wondering at which stage it's going to come out. That's why I feel therapy is so important, especially when so much trauma is involved, where family history of mental illness is involved, which her mom Margaret definitely had. Just to manage it, because you never know when it's going to come out to bite you in the ass, especially when you're not actively like talking through it and dealing with it.
Children, child stars aren't allowed to develop and cultivate a sense of identity. And this is made even worse by the fact that the world around you already has a perception, already has an idea and desire of who you are that serves them. The pressures and pursuit of fame, coupled with unrelenting work schedules, supporting their families, and missing out on crucial, healthy childhood developmental stages, make self-discovery almost impossible. And this, for me, is where health comes in. Many former child stars have suffered with severe mental health issues, from body dysmorphia, addictions, and EDs in adulthood. Lindsay Lohan, Drew Barrymore, Amanda Bynes, Demi Lovato, Alison Stoner, and many more have been incredibly brave and open about their experiences with addictions and EDs in adulthood. I give this context in order to give a foundation to what tragically transpired in Venus's life from 2019 onwards.
Oh, no.
Venus, like many child stars, had no childhood. She was financially supporting herself and Margaret, was homeschooled, clearly didn't have many, if any, real friends, and existed daily as a living doll. Living dolls are, importantly and intentionally, almost post-sexual. They're meant to be void of sexuality in order to fulfill the interests, both or simply aesthetically, of others. Margaret was also constantly moving.
Even like from a philosophical standpoint, the living doll as a symbol, as a figure, is a fascinating concept, because it's almost like that harlequin phenomenon, where the doll is basically hollow on the inside, so she can be filled with whatever intention, whatever emotion, whatever intent, whatever she can be anything, basically. Like, you can puppeteer her, like you have control over her. And I feel like her mom kind of raised her not to be that very like empty and hollow figure, whom then Margaret felt with her desires of what she wanted her daughter to be, to live vicariously through her, but it was not authentically who Venus is, which now that she's free and she's discovering herself, that can be a really scary identity crisis. I feel like that's why, like, it's kind of very telling, like with the very phenomenon of the living doll, that, you know, she's like this doll, this hollow thing, this thing that exists for people to toy and play with, to live through her, to control her, to fill her up with their own emotions, with their own ambitions, with their own desires, with their own whatever. She's she's never really anything of her own, and that's the scariest part of the phenomenon of the living doll.
Them around the world, which intentionally fostered codependency and Venus's social isolation, in my opinion. Not much, if any, personality can be discovered, tried or tested or realized in that environment. As I've said, Venus and Margaret allegedly shared a bed until Venus was of age, which really shows how even in times when any child should have alone time to extract themselves from everything and just think and be a potato, Venus didn't even have that. And I don't think Venus knew how to be that in adulthood. It is absolutely no surprise to me that Venus's adulthood has been one riddled in severe mental health struggles, alcoholism, addictions, and unstable relationships. From mid-2019 to the end of 2019, I would summarize Venus as fluctuating between two realities. And these realities were both in the service of her discovering who she was and who she wanted to be. On the one hand, she was going to therapy, she was getting diagnosed with mental and even started a job working at a PR company. She stopped wearing kawaii clothes and Lolita fashion and made the decision to stop posting about her private life. This all looked very, very good. However, on the other hand, it was very apparent that Venus had started drinking, which resulted in a series of drunk live streams and videos revealing that she had resorted to drinking, cooking wine, and talking about her intimate life with Manaki. All of these live streams and videos resulted in Venus, firstly, seeming to be changing her opinions of her husband. She now seemed to see him as a creepy, obsessive fan and was clearly coming to the realization that she had gotten married too young. Venus would also equate Manaki to her mother, and this would all stem from the fact that he had lost his job and Venus was now supporting the two of them financially. I would say that
That's a huge trigger. I can totally understand that. I can understand that, because if your mom was basically making you work your entire life and depending on you and giving you that pressure, and then you suddenly are in a position where someone else depends on you in that same way and you haven't worked through that trauma and those triggers, shit, I can't even imagine what that brought back.
Probably triggered something in Venus. She was finally given the space to not be a workaholic and to find herself, but was suddenly made to fulfill the role of a breadwinner, which she had so recently escaped from. She felt that she was living to please her husband, similarly to how she had lived to please her mother. And I think this all compounded in her using alcohol as a crutch and means to cope.
I want to get a piece of paper that has Manaki's face printed on it. I'm gonna stick it on the Tupperware and then smash the fucking piece of Tupperware. That's how much I hate him.
Venus would reveal that she was looking for a new place because she couldn't stand living with Manaki anymore. Apparently, he didn't take out the trash and left food to rot while she was working. He didn't want to get a job, but was also seemingly too embarrassed to tell his parents about the situation. Venus was becoming resentful at having to do things she didn't want to do in order to pay rent, but she assured her fans that she wasn't doing adult work to make money.
It's so difficult.
That's a bit random. I'm worried.
You're married. Like, you are just divorced
Mommy, I'm scared.
like that. It just takes so much time. My husband doesn't take out the trash. He doesn't take care of anything while I was away and living outside.
Not to take away from the seriousness of the situation, but my husband also didn't take out the trash yesterday. I'm gonna take a piece of paper, I'm gonna write his name on it, and I'm gonna smash it! I'm sorry, I had to do it. It's gone. I feel for her. It's a very serious situation. She's a victim. She deserves all the best things in her life. I'm just an idiot on the internet.
Environment because of work, and he just let everything rot. So this is the problem. He doesn't want to get a baito or like a job in Japanese. He doesn't want it. Who is he? He's my fucking husband, and he can die in hell. It's a disaster. I said, oh please, goodness, can you? I'm not sure how I'm gonna pay rent this month. Can you please do something for me? I'm like, okay, here's the money I earned doing things I didn't want to do. Are you doing No, I'm not doing I'm Christian, so I can't.
This would all change by April 2020. Following her era of drunken live streams and videos, Venus would continue to post on her YouTube channel, but it was clear that she was sad. She was dealing with what she had begun to accept was alcoholism, and she was experiencing depression. She stopped wearing bright colors and was pretty much exclusively wearing black and navy because it, and I quote, calmed her.
I prefer dark clothes. No why, but mostly because they calm me down. Wearing black or dark navy just makes me feel more calm.
And when asked what currently makes her happy and smile, Venus would start crying and say that nothing makes her smile, nothing makes her feel happy anymore, and that all she wants is for someone to pat her on the head.
What currently makes you happy and smile? Not currently, but I just want someone to pat my head.
During this time, Venus was in a relationship with a man called Ken, who, based on a series of posts she made in February of 2020,
So she divorced the husband.
was financially abusive, controlled her money, and didn't care about her physical or mental health. She'd accuse him of behaving inappropriately around children and would announce her breakup from him on Instagram. 2 months later, Venus would post her first ever risque picture on Instagram before announcing that she had officially launched an OF. This caused major controversy. According to Venus, she had always wanted to do this. However, it was clear by the video that she was drunk.
I just spent an immense amount of time. So for the most part of my my childhood and youth, I was just thinking about plots.
Many of her more parasocial fans, who were young girls and women, were clearly upset that someone who they associated with cutesy, kawaii, and living doll aesthetics was now venturing into the world of adult content creation. However, I think a lot more people were genuinely concerned that Venus was doing this for all the wrong reasons. Firstly, she was clearly an alcoholic when she made this announcement and started posting topless and risque photos of herself. Secondly, everybody knew her childhood story, that Margaret had allegedly ruthlessly objectified her and treated her sexuality as some kind of sacred asset for the two of them. Thirdly, Venus had said during one of her drunken video posts that her mother was responsible for her developing a BDSM kink, and many people felt that this was therefore a traumatic response as opposed to a healthy, fully thought out and empowering choice.
My family, cuckoo, verbal abuse, physical abuse. My stomach hurts me just like such a euphoria. Like I'm overcome with euphoria and relaxing, and it feels so good. Thanks to the physical abuse, I now have a BDSM kink.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Mom. The one whom we shall not name.
Fourthly, Venus had always had
she's
body image
spiraling.
issues, and this had almost taken her life. She was now going into an industry where there is a hyperfixation on body image and fulfilling particular male-centered expectations of beauty. This did not seem at all healthy for someone in recovery. And finally, Venus would also reveal that she'd actually been fantasizing about doing adult content since she was in kindergarten. This was concerning, but also it didn't match up with things that she'd said through the years, such as not knowing what it was like to feel excited until she got married, or that her Christian upbringing meant that sex wasn't a topic or feature in her life at all. And now, suddenly, adult content was all she'd ever wanted since kindergarten. Venus was, in my unprofessional opinion, showing all the signs of someone diagnosed with BPD. She impulsively latched onto a new identity as an OF creator, and she clearly believed...
and okay, like the BPD aside, like I don't think it's unreasonable that she's latching onto a new identity. I think she is having an identity crisis, and I think like with the right coaching, with the right therapy, she would be able to maybe get out of it. Like probably some pharmacological temporary help. Like I would always be very hesitant of of signing up someone for BPD treatment, because a lot of the times it involves lithium, and lithium is so fucking crazy. Like once you get on the lithium, there's no way back. And I feel like it's not unreasonable to assume that she's been brought up as a doll, this empty figure, this empty, hollow thing that other people filled up with their own reflections of their own desires, of their own ambitions, of their own intents for what they want her to be. That now she's trying to figure out herself and what she wants, that she's quote unquote free, but that freedom comes at a cost. And being thrown out there with no support system, with that severe trauma, all these triggers that you have, and trying to find your own identity outside of everything that you've been told that you have to be your entire life, that's really hard. I can really understand this. So like I wouldn't cross her off as like terminally mentally ill. I just think she's having a severe breakdown.
That this was her calling, the thing that would finally give her life the ultimate meaning, joy, and direction that she had been impulsively and relentlessly searching for since no longer being a living doll. She was in a cycle of feeling empty and unfulfilled, of being in unstable relationships with Manaki and Ken. She was impulsive. She engaged in self-destructive behaviors like drinking. This was not somebody who needed to start adult content creation. And I say this as somebody who is not at all puritanical about such things. Now, almost immediately, Venus became one of the top...
I think that the worst part that makes it a lot worse is the fact that she's online, like that she's such a public figure, that so many people are looking at her. Like I feel like I had a similar kind of crisis of identity in a way. At one stage, oh, what? Did the game just crash on me? What the fuck? Okay. Fair, I guess. Okay, I'll bring the game back. But yeah, I can understand it. You fall into these things, and also like as it was starting to get better, like I feel like it always gets better before it gets worse. Like a lot worse, because like you get out of like the main core of your trauma, the main like situation that caused all that shit to go wrong, and you're like, okay, I'm out of it. I can live a normal life now. Like I can just do everything, and then like you achieve a few things, and you fail a couple of things, and the more things that you fail that kind of contradict your worldview of what you should be, or you start to feel uncomfortable with who you are because you're like, oh, I was brought up into this person, like, is what I am what was told to me that I have to be? Do I have to be this way? Why am I so uncomfortable at the time? It's a slow process. It really creeps up on you. Like, you get out of the main trauma, you kind of, in the interim, forget all about it. You move past it momentarily. You build a new life. You have a good moment, good year or two, and then suddenly it hits you right back. It just all falls right on you, especially if you haven't worked through it. And then for me, it was crack. For her, it's alcoholism.
5 creators on OF. And I'd argue that this was because she, in crude terms, was pretty much willing to do anything under the sun and looked miserable, malnourished, and underage during all of it. A lot of people speculated that she had a pimp. Some people even thought it was Manaki. But based on my research, I'd say that all the men who feature behind the scenes of her content were different men. She had a payment tier called Be My Cameraman for the Day, and I think that tells you everything you need to know about that. This controversy would blow up even further after Venus announced that she would be collaborating with fellow OF creator June Lovejoy. June Lovejoy was infamous for firstly being a white woman living in Japan, but mainly for her adult content, which I will sum up as urination. June, however, seemed very, very stable and very healthy and mature. She definitely seemed to know what she was getting into. Venus, however...
Which honestly, if you're into it, if you're in control, if you're not lashing out, like if you're doing it because you're truly passionate about urination, then all the power to you.
appeared naive, ill, gaunt, and not at all like she was having a good or positive experience. It didn't feel like Venus was finding herself in as much as she was finding a persona to replace the only one she'd ever known, being a living doll. This persona was also, according to many, putting her in danger. In one infamous and rare live stream, Venus, dressed as a maid, looked not only underfed and drunk, but clearly afraid of who many believed to be her manager off screen. Now, it's difficult to clearly hear what is said in the live stream, but some online translators believed that her manager in the background says, "Don't be sullen, unlikable, hurry up and do it," and is essentially displeased with Venus either being live or not doing a very good job. Venus seemingly fails to cooperate, which is then followed by what many people speculated to be a slapping or punching sound before the sound of kissing can be heard. During this time, Venus would upload quite infrequently to YouTube, focusing her content around promoting her adult content. And in her videos, people noticed that she was intoxicated. She would be shaking, and many people had begun to lose hope. But Venus would give her viewers a little hope when, a year later, in May 2021, she'd do a mental illness coming out video in which she'd speak openly about her ADHD diagnosis, her anxiety, and her depression. She'd make it known that she was in
Venus. Girl. Girl. Stop making it too similar to me and Venus. Girl. So like, okay, I see the similarities because like the kind of controlling, kind of unstable mother, an identity crisis, history of alcoholism or drug abuse, mental illness, mental breakdown, and then ADHD. Which is also a diagnosis that I got. God damn it. But actually, this is so true. That's why I was like, don't cross her out for BPD disorder. Because when I was in the height of my mental breakdown, the first suggestion was that I had a borderline personality disorder. But after I actually got sober, that's A, and then changed my friend circle and lived a more stable life, the symptoms of the breakdown that I had lowered to such a degree that the doctor figured out it was actually just ADHD. But because the trauma, because of the mental breakdown, the symptoms of the ADHD are so blown out of proportion, it can masquerade as a borderline personality disorder. So it's like, in that case of severe trauma, a lot of the times ADHD can really make it seem like it's a borderline personality disorder. That's why I'm always like, just be careful with that with a bipolar or borderline disorder, because if you're going through a severe trauma, it can be a misleading indicator. Like, get yourself stable for a while, work through your issues, be in therapy, stop taking drugs, obviously. And then see if you're still as intensely reacting one way or the other. Because for me, the minute that I was out of it, I stabilized to such a degree that, okay, like, I get overwhelmed with my ADHD symptoms, I'm distracted, but that very intense emotional element is no longer part of it. And I feel like also the older I got, BPD is kind of classified by these like intense emotional highs and lows and response and reactions and very like intense responding to certain stimuli and certain triggers. Please correct me, Yorkie, if I'm wrong. You're probably better qualified to talk about this than me. And I was very much like that, but it was because I was A, growing up, B, traumatized, C, going through a mental breakdown, and then also I was addicted. And the minute that I got clean and went to therapy and stabilized my life and grew up a little bit as well, there's a big factor is the growing up. I no longer perceived these triggers in the same way like they would activate me back in the past, you know? So I'm still distracted. I still struggle with my ADHD a lot, like these deadlines with these videos. I can't seem to meet a deadline, you know? I'm overwhelmed, I get tired, I get distracted, I procrastinate, all that stuff, but it doesn't activate that emotional, it's the end of the world feeling. I'm just like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, my God, my fucking ADHD, you know? But it's not like it's the end of the world, I'm gonna kill myself kind of thing. Sorry, trigger warning. Yeah, but BPD is very tricky to diagnose, especially because a lot of people that end up seeking help are amidst of a crisis. And I heard that with more research being done, the doctors tend to be more careful about diagnosing it correctly. I mean, but there's also another element, I think, for you and I don't know about other places, but I know that in the UK and in Ireland, mental health care is ridiculous. It's so bad. It's so bad to get A, adequate help, B, a competent doctor, and C, it costs so much. Accessibility to it is really, really, really bad. So there's a lot of factors on top of it that can really challenge the ability of getting proper diagnosis and proper help and adequate support. So those social systemic factors really do play a huge role. Yeah, no, BPD can be very difficult, especially in relationships. You shouldn't feel sorry though, because it's not your fault. You know, I think like as long as you have adequate help and you're aware of your symptoms and you're aware of your triggers and you constantly work on it, like slip-ups happen. It happens all the time. You know? Like it's hard, but it's also not your fault. I think the worst thing to feel when you have a mental problem is to feel like you're to blame for it, because you're not. It's not your fault. You know, like, yes, you have it, and knowing that you have it gives you a certain level of responsibility to work on it, but as long as you work on it, you're fine. You're fine. You know? And it can be especially difficult in relationships because BPD is characterized by very intense feelings of abandonment, which also gets triggered by abandonment trauma, and it can mean in relationships that there's intense dependency on partners, there's intense feelings of abandonment if the partner leaves, and you know, that kind of thing. Like it can be hard to navigate in that way. I feel like I had those symptoms earlier on when I was younger. I don't feel like I have that so much anymore. Like maybe now I would have it in as much of like, I'm a little bit terrified when Neff is gonna go to Mexico at one stage in the future, and I'm not going because I couldn't afford it. But he has to see his family because he hasn't seen them in a long time, and he's going, and I haven't really lived alone for so many years. I'm a little bit scared because like I had nightmares recently, and sometimes like when I wake up at night from having a nightmare, and at least like he's there next to me, so I'm just like, okay, it's fine. But I'm so scared because when he's gonna go for those 2 weeks to Mexico, I'm like, and I'm gonna have a nightmare. I know I'm not gonna sleep that night, and I'm just kind of terrified about that. But it's not like, oh my God, I can't live without you, you know, kind of thing. It's more like, oh, I'm gonna be scared because my brain is not braining correctly. But yeah, BPD can be tricky with relationships because you can really get dependent on your partner, or you can idealize them, and then it can be very difficult when they have things going on, and to like be of good support. But I'm glad that you're working on it and that you know it. Kudos to you.
Therapy, and that this was helping her a lot. She talked about how when she
Sorry, the
started
Cities
doing
Skylines
something,
is still
she
loading.
often couldn't stop, which
Currently
explained why
crashing,
she couldn't
actually.
stop drinking, for instance. She would disappear from the internet and post quite sporadically until finally coming back in mid-2022 with a "What I've Been Up To" video. She'd explained that she'd been away because she was consumed by her ED and alcoholism.
I was consumed by my and alcoholism, and it was not a fun time, no.
She'd say that a cause of her drinking was her dishonesty. That is, pretending that she was okay, happy and fulfilled online and to her friends when in fact she wasn't coping. She'd say that from now on, alcohol was no longer an option for her. She was excited to hopefully stop shaking, which many people had noticed. Shaking is a symptom of both alcoholism as well as the alcohol shakes one gets when withdrawing from alcohol. And this all gave her viewers a lot more hope. By October 2022, Venus would reveal that she'd been admitted into a Japanese psych ward and that she'd been an inpatient for over a month. This was for her alcoholism.
Like the one thing additionally with her case that I'm worried about is like she had that weight loss surgery, and then on top of that she's pouring all that alcohol into herself. Oof. Oh. I know what you mean. Honestly, I think after this video, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna go get some breakfast. I bought apples like a week ago and I really need to make an apple cake. I was like procrastinating on it so much. So I'm gonna like finish this video. I'm gonna get breakfast. I'm gonna make an apple pie. And then I'm gonna come back and finish this fucking Cities Skylines. It has to be done today. Like, honestly, I'm so tired of it now. I'm excited that and it's broken. The game is broken. It doesn't work. Kurwa mać. Is the game telling me to leave it alone? I want to release my final episode. Let me release my episode! Ah! Sorry. I want to finish this. I want to be done with this. And I want to stop thinking about Cities Skylines for 2 weeks. I love this game, but I feel like sometimes it's like a toxic relationship. Because of how much time it takes out of me. But I feel like I just need to form a more healthy balance with like, because I really want to release more episodes and I want to do it, but then I'm also doing other things and I feel like if I wasn't doing other things, like if I wasn't playing other games, I would get really burnt out from Cities Skylines. Like it's good for me to sometimes jump onto World of Warcraft or Baldur's Gate or whatever and just do something else. Like sometimes after like an intense session of building Cities Skylines, also like the inspiration is not there. Like sometimes I just need to like travel to a new city and look at beautiful architecture and see how things are done. My favorite thing when I'm flying in planes, especially on a clear day, is to look like how cities are designed, you know, especially when it's like taking off and landing. I'm just like, how did they lay these streets out? I'm always doing research for Cities Skylines. But every now and again, when I have spent like 6 months closed in my cave, in my room, and just designing my city and detailing it to the gods and back, and just like, I feel like I just need to go to Rome or something to get inspired again, because what the fuck am I doing? When I can't afford to go to Rome, I go on Google Earth. Anyways, let's continue.
Which again gave people hope that
loading the game again is loading the mods. It might break, it might not. Let's see. The errors have been a lot more adamant than they had been before. I don't know if it's because of all the Soli mods that I installed, but I want those stairs. I'm not gonna have these stairs.
she was doing the right thing for her mental and physical health.
I've been inpatient for 1.5 months for a mood
and alcoholism, very severe alcoholism.
She seemed to realize that she had a disease which she'd have to live with, manage, and introspect about for the rest of her life. And that is a huge step for anybody with an addiction to come to terms with. I think this really shows Venus's desire to get better, even to this day. But I don't think, even then, she had the resources, the people, or the foundation built from childhood to actualize her desire to get better. How can someone without a sense of identity, isolated and living in a foreign country, heavily medicated and trying to make the right decisions around a disease that helps them cope with trauma, with everything difficult, possibly do better? This is so sad, but in the process of doing my research, I could see where this was going before I knew. Within 2 months, it was clear that Venus was going downhill. She was still doing OF, she was shaking even more, and she was clearly drinking again. She claimed to be in recovery. However, by January 2023, she would acknowledge that she'd gone on a 3-day bender after she posted a fight that she'd had with her fiance. Yes, I was shocked too.
I was kind of sad and I thought I could just handle 1 glass of wine, but that kind of spiraled and that 1 glass turned into a 3-day bender, and I did some really stupid that I regret. So first of all, I had a fight with my fiancé, and I posted the fight on...
It's okay. The errors in Cities Skylines, I just click continue and I pretend like they don't exist. I'm just going to blissfully ignore them until I finish this episode. And then I'm going to deal with it after the new update.
Instagram, which is something I would normally not do. I was totally out of character because when I drink I turn kind of Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. It's like I have 2 personalities.
This very much represented a cycle at the time. Basically, Venus would see comments about her online. These comments would upset her. She'd drink as a result, and her Jekyll and Hyde personality would be activated and on full display. Once she drank, she'd destroy her real relationships with people and become a horrible person both in real life and online. She knew this of herself and would apologize for her self-destructive behavior and tendencies, hoping that this would lead to her genuine long-term recovery. She wanted to find another job, a job that didn't just involve social media, and was determined to stay in therapy and to keep fighting. Venus would post this video in January of 2023, and she'd post her final YouTube video in March 2023, a skincare video where she seemed highly medicated and just...
Aww. Oh my god. I'm scared.
I actually started crying yesterday when I watched this video because
God.
it's just so tragic, it's so unfair, it's so cruel when you see people who from the beginning, irrespective of their efforts, just had no chance, which inadvertently leads us back to the source of everything. And a question that I am sure has played at least once on your mind. What happened to Margaret Palermo?
Yeah.
She would have gotten away with it if she would have told all the neighbors the same story, the same lie.
So, what happened to Margaret Palermo after Venus abandoned her and their career? Well, through the years, Margaret seems to have had a great deal of time to reflect and relay what she believed to be the childhood story of Venus Angelic. As I said, she tells a very different story about everything that transpired. According to her, when Venus was 15, she had begged Margaret to help her become like Becky Cruel. In the early 2000s, Becky Cruel was a YouTuber who uploaded J-pop cover dances and eventually became so popular in Japan that she actually became an idol and best-selling Japanese pop star by the age of 16. Margaret claimed that after much begging, she finally gave into Venus's wishes and made it her priority to make her daughter's dreams come true. She brought her filming equipment, clothes, and bought out domains so that they could create the channel and brand of Venus Angelic. Margaret basically saw that Becky Cruel was managed by her father, and so she essentially eventually became a manager to her daughter. She taught her how to do makeup and how to become like Becky Cruel. Margaret claims that during all the bullying Venus and her faced during the peak of their career, she moved for Venus's safety and worked full-time as her manager. According to Margaret, when Venus had everything she wanted, including a Japanese husband, she moved to Japan and stole everything from me, leaving her to die. According to Margaret, to this day, it was her who did everything for the channel. And the fact that Venus's channel is where it is now is evidence that Margaret did everything and is the true Venus angelic. Margaret has survived the most impossible, and she believes that her good heart is an actual and disability. And I do really believe that Margaret believes this of herself and of how events have played out. Margaret, in Margaret's mind, is literally Venus angelic, which is why dancing around in Venus's clothes makes perfect sense to her and isn't at all odd or inappropriate. Importantly, Margaret also claimed that Venus at least 2 people, her husband and a girl. And these accusations sparked yet again major controversy. For a long time, many people believed that Manaki had passed away, but this was all proved to be entirely false and entirely fabricated. But again, I think Margaret truly believes that everything she does and says is done in the overall and eventual interest of her daughter. Nobody and nothing can or will convince her otherwise. I think the trajectories of both Margaret and Venus's lives really demonstrates the consequences of being unhealed and having no resources for the healing process. I think both of these women, one of them then only a child, lived so much of their lives pursuing fame and external validation that neither had the introspective capacity needed to make better personal decisions. Venus was failed by Margaret, and Margaret appears to have been failed by her upbringing and inability to get help. And I think in this, we can see the saddening and traumatic outcomes of unbroken generational curses. Based on my analysis, the result of untreated mental health issues faced by both women is an incredibly sad thing to see and really results in the story taking yet another complete 180. Let's start with Margaret. Naturally, Margaret's reputation and career were no more after Venus essentially eloped with Manaki. Her online activity post-Venus Angelic can pretty much be summed up as bullying and harassing anyone who dared question her actions, threatening to unalive herself, and trying to either expose Venus or get her to come home. Margaret did go on a redemption tour of sorts, meeting with Xiao and apparently making amends and Margaret apologizing. Margaret got an apology as she made sure to inform us. The interim years were spent traveling across the world, not because Margaret had any money, but mainly in pursuit of various short-term boyfriends until her travel visas expired. Forums followed her from South Korea to Japan, to Switzerland, to Hungary, to London, and some. She mainly lived in hostels, was allegedly homeless and sleeping in cafes, spent much time clubbing in Seoul's red light district, and was seemingly dependent on her short-term partners and any money she could get selling memorabilia under the Venus Angelic name. This was also when she started re-uploading Venus's videos to her own YouTube channel to generate ad revenue for herself. She tried marketing herself on Craigslist as a one-on-one language teacher, an out-call masseuse in South Korea, and a web designer. She'd also reach out to other YouTubers offering to manage them.
Jesus.
Okay. Margaret also posted many pictures of herself throughout the years, mimicking her daughter's poses in what many speculate was an attempt to get Venus's attention, as well as to rage bait attention to her social media. There was a major debacle around Margaret's antics at the time, especially when she tried to sell locks of Venus's hair and her baby teeth. I am questioning my sanity in making this video, and although this was all highly interesting, entertaining, and bizarre,
I'm sorry for laughing, but this is so ridiculous. She's selling her baby hair after she allegedly tried to bit off her finger. Venus wants blood, mother!
For many following the trials and tribulations of Margaret Palermo, nothing terribly exceptional was happening. That is until Margaret announced that she was married in November of 2022 and was now living in the United States of America with her new husband, Colby. She was now living on the open road, traveling across the state of Florida with her truck-driving prince. Or at least that's what she presented on social media. The world heaved a sigh of relief and thought, finally, Margaret has found peace, happiness, a meal ticket, and is leaving Venus alone. One thing you might have noticed about Margaret Palermo in seeing pictures of her over the years is that her appearance changes rather dramatically. And as far as I can tell, in my opinion, these physical transformations always correlate to who is her best meal ticket. When Venus was her meal ticket, Margaret tried to emulate being a living doll, being an influencer, being in kawaii and Japanese culture. She fully committed herself to being Venus's manager. There was a lengthy period in which Margaret had her hair dreadlocked and got very into Jamaican culture. This physical transformation corresponded with when she was in a relationship with a Jamaican man. You will also notice that when she married Colby, the Floridian truck driver, her look became very female trucker adjacent. Although Margaret's Instagram made married life look like a dream in the alligator capital of the world, life on the road is incredibly stressful, and for most people, it is no luxury. Margaret would eventually start uploading videos of Colby being verbally to her. But in these expose videos, he can also be heard accusing her of doing the same thing. In one video, he'd yell that he was sick of her bringing up that she had an IQ of 154, something which, if you remember, Venus had already brought up when her mother tried to blackmail her into sending her $3,000 a month. Colby would abandon her on the road to teach her a lesson, and she would soon file for divorce. In court, it was revealed that Colby had a history of domestic abuse. According to Margaret, at the divorce proceedings, he would call her a psychopath and a scammer. Irrespective of my opinions on Margaret and her many issues, I am glad that she got a divorce, and if I had witnessed it at the time, I would have wished her therapy, healing, and time offline to introspect and become a better person. But of course, she would instead rebrand as a #survivor. I can drink beer with a Yakuza boss. I can live fine anywhere in the world. I find work everywhere, have no addictions, and no criminal record.
Oh no. Oh no.
I received many proposals in my life.
I think that there's only one step left for her here. She's gonna become an Ezoguru. I think the only logical point after this is for her to become an ayahuasca administrator in a Peruvian styled bodega somewhere in Los Angeles. I see it. The only path forward for her is to become an Ezoguru. I think it's the only step left for her is the grift. Oh no.
Men get obsessed over me, and I would have been happy to stay married, but some people take my kindness for weakness. As I said, drinking and yelling are choices. Arguing unethically is a choice. Being manipulative won't cut it. I wasn't born yesterday. I still fell for all the wonderful love bombing and not knowing the US. So yeah, I'm also not perfect. And of course, I wanted to be happy, and it was a tough inner battle to let a marriage and relationship go. We all know that many men harm women based on refusal. Some women are unalived because men won't take no for an answer. #aggressive, #men, #staying single, #cat lady, #Yakuza,
The #Yakuza really did it for me. I'm Team Margaret now.
Japan, #Fundoshi. I just love how she hashtagged Fundoshi. Now, Margaret's divorce from Colby would be finalized by the beginning of 2024, and nobody would hear much from her aside from the occasional photoshopped Instagram photo or updates on how much of a betrayer and liar Venus was. But this would all change in July of 2024. On July 21st, 2024, a woman by the name of Laurel Lee Bay was arrested in Queens, New York for illegally squatting. Laurel Lee Bay had her things moved into the property and appeared to have hired a moving van to do so. Laurel Lee Bay essentially found out about this vacant property by sleuthing online and discovering that the original owner had recently passed away, which left the property empty and uninhabited. Now, if it isn't obvious, Laurel Lee Bay is in fact Margaret Palermo.
Laurel Bay covering her face from our camera while leaving court. Her appearance Wednesday answering to criminal trespass charges after being arrested at this Howard Beach home twice in July.
Can you tell us why you were there? Do you have anything to say?
No comment.
Margaret is a gift that keeps on giving. What the fuck is happening here? it's like a never-ending shitmas with her. It just keeps on giving.
Bay was quiet at court, but neighbors argue she had plenty to say when approached at the long vacant 99th Street home.
Margaret had her name legally changed in August of 2023. She had allegedly illegally trespassed and squatted at least once before in a vacant property in Kentucky. And when she was there, she kept a journal, which basically exposed her as a conspiracy theorist and at least a delver into the highly controversial new religious movement of German heathenism.
Neighbors said,
I called it. I called it. I fucking called it.
they saw Bay moving belongings into the home, but her reasons for being there weren't adding up.
She would have gotten away with it if she would have told all the neighbors the same story, the same lie.
According to the criminal complaint, police saw Bay come out of the house and she allegedly told an officer she did research and nobody lives in the home. An order of protection was issued in court. A judge says Bay cannot contact witnesses or return to the residence. The home has also been locked up while Holmes figures out what's next.
Now, Laura Lee Bay's life since mid-2024 has been pretty much identical to Margaret Palermo's life during the interim years. Now that Colby isn't her life, posting about Venus has once again become her preoccupation. She has made it known that Venus started to unravel not with her, that is not with Margaret, but since leaving Margaret for Manaki, which based on Margaret's logic means that she isn't to blame. The mirror hasn't been cracked for a while, and it was my hard work and love that kept together and hidden. Venus had gold, unconditional love, protection, beauty, and possibility, and she traded it for a cheap illusion that flattered her fantasy. That's what breaks the heart, that she chose it, eyes half open, and burned the bridge behind her. It's not just a betrayal, it's an insult to everything.
She sounds like J.K. Rowling. Sorry, she sounds like Mr. Joanne Rowling. If Mr. Joanne can misgender people, so can I.
I have done, everything I have built and sacrificed. I poured my love into her, and she handed it to people who saw her as disposable, monetizable, or a trophy. Hashtag boundaries. Margaret,
Then, like, when I say so can I, or so will I misgender Mr. Joanne Catherine Rowling.
also create this appropriate piece of art in the name of hashtag boundaries. Currently, Margaret's whereabouts in the world are unknown. Apparently, she's currently working as a supervisor in Manhattan, but one thing about Margaret Palermo is that you never ever know. According to her, since May, she's decided to stop reaching out to Venus altogether, claiming that, and I quote, "I gave up my own life streams to fulfill yours. Your actions have consequences. You have hurt me beyond repair. I cannot erase the past, but I can protect myself from more harm. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. I release you from any obligation to me, and I release myself from any responsibility toward you." Now, just in case Margaret ignored what I said at the very beginning of this video and is watching this video, do not bother emailing me, contacting me, threatening me, or my team. Go well, because clearly Margaret is feeling vindicated, which is apparently all she's ever wanted. And this vindication has everything to do with what we are going to conclude this video with, namely, what at this point in time has happened to Venus Angelic.
I'm scared.
Your ass. Hey, you come from South Africa? You stupid ass. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Now, although Venus hasn't posted on YouTube since the beginning of 2023, she has now and again been posting on Instagram. And in 2024, she'd claim that the reason she wasn't posting on YouTube is because she no longer has access to her YouTube channel. 2024.
Honestly, a part of me wants to say, "Come at me, bitch." But you know what? I'm just reacting. I don't know anything. I don't know anyone. I'm just reacting to whatever our dear friend Kidology? Yeah, Kidology is telling me about what happened.
Or was essentially a year in which Venus started posting incessantly on X or Twitter, and it was assumed and seemingly confirmed by Venus that she was not only living off alcohol but also into hard drugs. She would also post incessantly on the Venus Angelic Discord server, where her last remaining fans tried to help her virtually. There was a period of 7 days in which she essentially harassed these fans, mocking them for things like their deceased relatives, which as a result saw the Discord nuked. Venus was saying a lot of wild, derogatory derogatory and horrible things online during this time, but was simultaneously asking for help. She then spiraled into more vitriol, hatred, and harassment when she didn't receive the help she seemingly wanted, namely money to feed her and attention. Her fans and those following her were therefore in a bind. They couldn't believe anything Venus said because of her tendency to now lie online for shock value and attention. However, it was clear that the reason she was lying and seeking attention had everything to do with her being unwell, potentially being exploited, and spiraling into her addiction. For a time, it was known that Venus was homeless in Japan. However, by February of this year, it was confirmed that she was back where she started. She had been deported and was in Switzerland. She was admitted into a Swiss hospital by March of this year, but had, according to a post she made on Reddit, snuck out and went on a bender. She would incessantly post about this bender on the Venus Angelic subreddit before being banned. In August, she'd also begun posting sporadic videos of herself on Instagram, which showed her day drinking, drunk, and clearly not in hospital or in recovery. She's seemingly living in squalor in an alleged house and is dependent on Cash App donations, Swiss welfare, and allegedly on extended Swiss family members. Although I don't know how viable this is considering that Venus's father, by dint of ignoring his daughter, being as terrible a parent as Margaret in my opinion, when she posts, she posts nonsensically, and everybody online is pretty much in consensus that she is currently at rock bottom.
Hey guys, it's Venus.
I can't say that I exactly know how to end this video. I usually like to have quite a clear, assertive, and obvious message of how, against all the odds, everything will be alright. Everything will and does get better,
story.
and this person, this subject matter that I'm talking about is an example of that. The story of Venus Angelic doesn't provide us with that clear and obvious message, that hopeful, optimistic conclusion which makes it all worthwhile in the end. But I do have hope for Venus. I do have a grain of hope for Venus, and I believe in her. And the reason I have hope, the reason I have belief, is because she has shown evidence time and time again that she knows that she makes the wrong decisions, that she's self-destructive, that she needs help. That's the first step and the hardest step. And I think she has the potential to believe that and hopefully see that everything that comes after that, all the therapy, all the withdrawal symptoms, all the lows, and all the fear is worth it for what comes after. I sincerely hope that Venus begins to believe in herself, because my research made it abundantly clear that hundreds of thousands of people across the world believe in her and wish her nothing but the best moving forward. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive. Please let me know if you've ever watched or heard of Venus Angelic and what her content meant to you, what this makes you think, your opinions and perspectives. There was so much that I wished I could have included in this video, but this video is already probably over 2 hours long, and I have a 3-hour-long class tomorrow where I am expected to talk in public. My Gen Z anti-sociality cannot comprehend it. If you made it this far, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I researched, recorded, and edited this all myself, so please let me know how you found this video. Let me know what I can improve on, and do let me know who you'd like me to cover next. Also, don't forget to subscribe and remember to leave your thoughts down below. And I also cannot believe it, because I have such terrible imposter syndrome that I do not look at my analytics. But you, yes you, have helped me reach 300k subscribers.
Hell yeah.
I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd have 300k subscribers on YouTube, and I cannot
Give it up
thank
for
you enough
Kidology.
for the immense, and I mean immense, support you've all been showing me these past few months on my videos. You have all, in all seriousness, changed my life in ways that I cannot publicly get into, but that I am eternally grateful for and am not worthy of. Thank you so very much, brethren, and I would like to dedicate this video to Venus's recovery. And I'll see all of you very soon in the next one.
Okay. Oh, she's great. She's really good. I really like her. Wow. You're right, Ima. I don't know what to say either. I'm a bit just like, you know, like when you have been through a tumble dryer. I feel like that. Like, I feel like I've been chewed up and spat back out, and then chewed up again, and then spat back out again, and then whirled around, and then dragged through the mud, and what the fuck? My God. This was intense. I don't really know what to say. Should we brighten the mood with a little bit of Marzia Gagioli? I feel, you know what, as a distraction mechanism and as a way to just like lighten the mood a little bit and take our minds away from this horrible cesspool of a story, but which was greatly, beautifully presented by our wonderful presenter, Kidology. She deserves all the kudos. She did an amazing job researching and presenting and writing and everything. So, not to reflect on her, just the story was fucking traumatizing. Time for some Marzia. Let me put her up. Let the queen brighten our mood. Halo, to mówi, a ty milczesz. To ty powiedz mi, co chcesz mi powiedzieć. Jeśli cierpisz miłości, nie jesteś jedyny. Jeśli masz złamane serce, nie jesteś jedyny. Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Tak bardzo jak chciałabym wiedzieć. Halo, kto mówi? Nie chcesz mówić. Halo, powiedz mi, czy chcesz ode mnie? Jeśli cierpisz miłości, nie jesteś jedyny. Jeśli masz złamane serce, nie jesteś jedyny. Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Tak bardzo jak chciałabym wiedzieć. Right. Jeśli cierpisz miłości, nie jesteś jedyny. Jeśli masz złamane serce, nie jesteś jedyny. Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Halo, 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 po co do mnie dzwonisz? Halo, 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 co ci chodzi po głowie? Tak bardzo jak chciałabym wiedzieć. my god. What a cesspool of a story. But yeah, nothing improves my mood like a little bit of Marzia Gaggioli. You know what? More. I want more. I want more. I want more. I need an emotional reset after this story. So, time for Marzia.
Odszedłeś po raz
kolejny.
Tęskniłam za tobą. Przepraszam, ale już za późno. Nie chcę z powrotem.
Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Ha, 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 ha. Jestem gorylem, no nie. Too early, too early. Jestem gorylem w nocy. Jestem gorylem w nocy. Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Ha, 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 ha. Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Jestem gorylem w nocy. Kurwa, znowu. Nie wyszło mi. I couldn't do it.
Wspominam pierwsze dni razem. Byłam tak zakochana. Kochałam swoje niebieskie oczy, które mnie zdradziły.
Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Ha, 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 ha. Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Jestem gorylem w nocy. Jestem gorylem w nocy. Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie? Wynoś się, wynoś się. Ha, 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 ha.
Wynoś się, wynoś się. Dlaczego wracasz do mnie?
Wynoś się, wynoś się.
Jestem
Gorylem w nocy. Alright, that was great. Jesus, I really needed Marzia Gaggioli after this true crime. That was insane. Fuck. I had hopes that she would have recovered, but my god. My god. What a wild ride, wasn't it? What a wild ride. Just want to finish this part of the wall and then I'm gonna go to have breakfast because I am actually so hungry and I still have to go to the shop and everything, and it's almost 12, So like, I'll do this. I will be back because I need to finish this shit today. I am determined. Because if I'm not gonna start editing tomorrow, then 100% there will be no video. But yeah. I wonder, is there anything short that you guys want to see in the next like 5 minutes? Something quick, something not too long, because literally in the next 10 minutes I'm gonna go, but then I'm gonna be back. What we gonna watch? I had something. I actually had something for us. I need to have a look. I have a folder where I'm saving stuff for us to cover and talk about. But in the meantime, give me something 10 minutes long. That's all I need to finish this shit. Okay, let's see what's happening in Japan.
The other day I started...
Jesus, please don't be a right-wing grift. Don't be a right-wing grift. Don't be a right-wing grift. I got some right-wing grift in my algorithm recently. That's why I'm praying that hopefully it's not it.
Receiving messages from people asking me if Japan is okay, linking a rather ominous sounding video called What is Happening to Japan. It wasn't just the title and thumbnail that were ominous, but the description reading, Is Japan cooked? I've seen a lot of changes and things seem to...
No, it just came up in my algorithm. I don't know why. There was something. It was actually an Irish grifter, which took me by surprise because I was like, no, like there's no way. There's no way that we have this shit here. And we fucking do. It was a bozo talking about how the gender ideology is infecting Irish schools. And it was really disgusting. Like the bozo, not the ideology. Yeah, gender ideology. But I did actually click the video because I was curious to see what are they going to talk about. I was like, I clicked it kind of half not believing that it was going to be what I thought it was, and then it was what I thought it was going to be, sadly.
Be getting worse. In an era where I'm now being sent daily AI videos and photos that
That's why now I'm like, oh god, I hope it's no more of it. Please, please, I don't want to see this in my algorithm.
Misrepresent Japan from bizarre and questionable accounts. It made an almost refreshing change to be sent something produced by a human being, and more crucially a creator who is one of the...
Honestly, I love it. I feel like if I was more popular, I would have probably started a conspiracy theory now that I'm posing as a leftist.
The biggest foreign content creators living in Japan, with 1.4 million subscribers on YouTube alone and hundreds of thousands more across other social media platforms. In fact, the same video had been chopped up into half a dozen videos without dialogue and shared on Instagram and TikTok, amassing over 3 million views in just a matter of days. Now, I was especially concerned, not just as somebody living in Japan or Tokyo, but actually this street where the thumbnail's taken is somewhere I walk down once or twice a week in Nakameguro. One of my favourite coffee shops is just around the corner, and in fact, this video I made earlier in the year was filmed on the same street, albeit at a different angle, not showing the abandoned house. And not to mention, I've actually been living in the neighbourhood myself for the last 3 years. And when I went to take the thumbnail for my video, I quickly noticed a few interesting differences between my original ungraded photos and the thumbnail of her video. It is a rather fascinating game of spot the difference. So naturally I was a bit concerned to find out what is happening to Japan, especially as over 3 million people had seen this message. For half of the runtime of the video, the creator in question walks through Kabukicho in Shinjuku, Japan's biggest nightlife district, with a reputation for being dirty and gritty, filming bin bags, litter and homeless people. In the short form content, the same videos show the litter being intercut at times with foreign tourists, who are queuing unremarkably to take a photo of the Toho Godzilla statue, although the angle of the statue was left out of the footage. And it's at this point I need to reiterate, if you don't know Japan, Kabukicho or Shinjuku can be a bit of a shock. It's the equivalent of walking through downtown LA or Soho in London. And in recent years, it's been gentrified more than perhaps anywhere in Tokyo. It used to be genuinely quite dangerous. I remember 10 years ago, I made a hotel reservation there and had to cancel it after there was a Yakuza shootout quite literally across the road from the hotel. The area is also synonymous with Tokyo's homeless population as far back as 2003, when the film Tokyo Godfathers shone a spotlight on the long-standing homeless population, which, according to the statistics, is thankfully going down. And if you walk around there today, compared to 10 years ago, there are far less homeless people. But crucially, Kabukicho and Shinjuku doesn't represent Tokyo, it doesn't represent Japan, but if you wanted to make Japan look cooked, it would be the first place you would go, pull out your camera and hit record. The other half of the runtime in these videos was dedicated to Nakameguro, a trendy district that's historically one of Tokyo's most artistic neighbourhoods, and with a recent history of graffiti, both artistic and just tagging, where people just spray paint their name. A few years ago, I think it was 2019, there was quite a lot of graffiti, and the local schools got together to paint over it, and then the graffiti came back again. But when Japanese TV made a video on it, interviewing locals, interestingly, they didn't intercut it with shots of Asia's biggest nightlife district and call it What is Happening to Japan. They called it Residents Express Discomfort at 37 graffiti sites found around Nakameguro Station. And maybe that's why, despite having twice the number of subscribers, they only got 100,000 views, instead of almost 500,000. Silly traditional media, attempting to present news in an objective manner in
Woof, we've got ourselves a leftist. We can sigh a sigh of relief.
2025. And so at this point you might be thinking, okay, right, so what's happened to Japan? What happened next? Well, lean in. Come closer. Come over. That was it. That was literally it. In a country of 120 million people, they were all cooked because of some bin bags in a red light district and some spray paint on a wall down 6 or 7 streets in the capital city. And while the YouTube video was 15 long, stupid minutes I'll never get back, it was the short form content that really concerned me. We live in a scary time when more people now than ever before learn things about countries and cultures from 30 to 60-second videos without context, and where the more sensationalist the videos are, the more you will be rewarded for it. People are angry, both in Japan and around the world at the moment, and this video, or these videos, seem to be exceptional rage bait that made a lot of people angry. Without any exposition on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, they showed a series of awful images in a densely populated area, and if you look at the comment sections, particularly on those shorts, you will see the most vile, hateful, angry comments that you can find. A creator isn't responsible for what people comment on their content, but subtle choices, the way the images and clips are cut and edited together, with the message that goes with it, can have a very powerful effect. As somebody who's edited over 300 videos, I'm more aware of that than anyone. The most unsettling thing is it's never been easier to monetize sensationalist slop content. And if you do it, you'll be richly rewarded for it. Case in point, this video, the creator pointed out, made $1,500, which is a seriously impressive amount of money for going around filming some bin bags and some spray paint in a video that would have taken a matter of hours to record. And this is one of the things that worries me the most, the monetization of slop sensationalist content. That's one thing I want to discuss a little bit later on. It's at this point I thought, look, just don't say anything. Bite your tongue, move on. But when I saw millions upon millions of views, people angry, a current backdrop of sensationalist slop content taking over, and a rise in anti-foreign sentiment here in Japan, I snapped. I had to say something. I chose to bring attention to it publicly. And I quickly received 2 replies. The first was from a guy who posted a photo of some graffiti he saw in 1993, pointing out graffiti has always been around in Tokyo. And the other comment was from the content creator herself, who told me to take it down. This was now a creator on creator matter, and they were just a humble creator with a GoPro, somehow conveniently forgetting they were one of the biggest foreign content creators in Japan. Now, I think if you are a large content creator, both literally and metaphorically, you should be willing to accept a degree of scrutiny. I know I do. Every time I release a video, people attack me for various things. And if I see something that I believe misconstrues reality, then I'm going to call it out as well. Impressively, no less than 6 hours later, she'd shot, edited, and released an entire video about what she'd called an attack, calling me a gatekeeper. I was accused...
Okay, it's a drama. It's a drama video, guys. We have just been involved in another scandal. What is happening?
...of painting Japan as a utopia. I was accused of excluding her from my friendship group, somebody I've never met, never spoken to. I was accused of being grumpy, maybe because her viewers had claimed that
He's accused of being... Has she never met a British person?
She was more attractive than me and less grumpy. And no, I'm not making this up. This is actually a real video. And finally, I was called the C word, just to add the cherry on top. It is, ironically, one of the most bizarre, personal, rambling attacks that I've ever had. And I think it is really pointless. It degrades any sort of debate or conversation. And it's the least important thing that I want to talk about today. And for some clarity, I really don't dislike this person. I dislike their content, not just this video, but some other videos, which I'll discuss. I know I can be sarcastic and silly, but I'm genuinely not a malicious person. I quite honestly wish her well. And I ask you, if you disagree with her, if you disagree with me, that you always comment in a respectful manner and don't share any hatred online. There's already enough of that going around. And I'm making this video for two reasons. Number one, there are much bigger issues in play here around content creation, around Japan, and I want to discuss those. And second of all, some people see it as me bullying another creator because they don't understand why I would bring this up. And honestly, I don't do this sort of thing lightly. The only time I think I've ever called out a creator was Mr. Beast last year when he partnered with Logan Paul, a man who did awful things in Japan, which I had to discuss publicly on Japanese national television. I didn't enjoy making that video or the attention or scrutiny it brought me. I hate myself sometimes that I can't keep my mouth shut.
I want to know what's happening in Japan. I don't really care about this personal drama.
Shut on certain things. But when you feel something is profoundly wrong in here, you have to talk about it. I've held my tongue previously on other content that this creator has produced. A few years ago, a friend showed me a clip of a video in which the same person walked through an economically deprived part of Tokyo filming homeless people.
Oh my gosh, this is a rough area.
Under the guise of showing the real Japan, filming the most vulnerable people in society and posting it online. Like, I've had Japanese friends tell me this sort of stuff makes them feel uncomfortable. Beyond that, it sort of portrays Japan as this magical place where there's a barrier between us, where if you speak Japanese, they will bounce around, they will scream and shout, it will cure depression. As if the entire country is one big social experiment waiting to be exploited. And I worry in an era of nuisance content creators coming to Japan doing things that are unspeakably bad. They might see this sort of content and go, wow, you get $1,500 for that. Maybe start to wave cameras around in the faces of homeless people, potentially leading to even more nuisance content. And when the cost of making such content is nothing, but the profits are extraordinary, the only real thing stopping you from doing that is morals. And as we've seen time and again with streamers in Japan, morals are often in short supply. And coupled with the fact there's rising anti-foreign sentiment in Japan, it makes me concerned and uncomfortable. So what are the real issues facing Japan? What is happening to Japan? In the last few weeks, I've been travelling around the country, filming videos. I've been to Sendai, Nagano, Nagoya, Gifu, Okinawa, and spending time with the locals out there, talking with them, hearing their concerns. I can assure you, none of them care about a fucking bin bag in Shinjuku or some spray paint on a wall in Nakameguro. The two most notable things are depopulation and a cost of living crisis. And funnily enough, while this stuff was happening, I was on an island in Okinawa interviewing the locals on how depopulation has affected their island, where once there were hundreds of people, today there are 50, and this has obviously affected island life. And quite honestly, I would much rather be editing that video than talking about this. But it will take me weeks to edit that video and do the islanders' story justice. And this takes me to the real crux of the matter, the thing that worries me the most. In the same time that it will take to produce this video, I could go out and film 50 of these videos, make a lot more money with a lot less effort. It is increasingly hard to compete when you're producing videos to a higher standard, when you have to fact check everything. The creator of this video claimed it took 50 hours to produce this video, a claim I find to be, quite frankly, baffling. I'm not sure where the 50 hours went. And you might think, well, he does sound kind of jealous now. Maybe she's right. Maybe he's just not getting the views. And I say far from it. I could go out and make this content in one afternoon in Tokyo. What I'm saying is social media platforms don't care. They don't reward accuracy. They don't reward nuance or objective reason. They reward clicks, they reward attention, they reward sensation.
That's why, controversially, I would advertise more regulation. But there should be a body of a regulatory body with no interest in the said companies.
Journalistic integrity, really doesn't count for much online, unfortunately, to an almost dystopian degree. Some criticisms levelled at me is that I also make sensationalist content and that I only show the nice side of Japan, the squeaky clean, rose-tinted spectacle version of the country. And to that I would say there's a big difference between sensationalist content and clickbait titles and thumbnails. I hate having to pull a stupid face. I hate my thumbnails and titles. But it is simply a matter of survival on an increasingly crowded platform that doesn't share your content unless it has a high click-through rate. And I tried to make up for the stupid faces and titles by delivering content that does the subject matter justice. And the claim that I show only the over-romanticised utopian version of Japan is simply ridiculous. Does this look romanticised? Is this a utopia? Does that look romanticised? Is this a utopia? But do I walk through economically deprived parts of Tokyo and Osaka filming homeless people with a GoPro? No, I don't. And I'm sorry if that is the only definition of showing the dark side of Japan that you have. I cover the matters that I genuinely believe are affecting Japan the most. And in fact, I've been speaking with a homeless shelter about doing a documentary, but it's a serious topic and these are people's lives and I need to tackle that carefully. If you want to watch something about Japan's homeless population, Life Where I'm From has made a fantastic documentary series on the subject. I would urge you to go and watch them. I will say, I felt sort of disheartened this year in general about so many...
Overall I like him. He's a bit butthurt over his conflict with the crazy girl. But I see why. But yeah, overall he's cool.
Things about the state of the world, and this is sort of to the side of this issue. As you may know, I've been living here over a decade now, about 13 years, and I've been extremely lucky to be here. And I've always tried to show Japan in a fair and balanced way, particularly more rural areas that I love, which I've been lucky to call home. And more I'm seeing comments and discourse online that I'm just a foreign guy living in Japan. I don't understand the culture. I'm a foreign guy exploiting Japan. And I've had that claim thrown at me more in the last 12 months than in the last 12 years combined. To the point, it has sort of sucked the energy out of me a bit and made me wonder, what am I doing? Does what I do matter anymore? No matter how many documentaries I make, no matter what I shine a spotlight on, no matter who I meet or what I do, just a foreign guy exploiting Japan. And I felt lost about what am I doing here? I was far happier as a smaller creator without the burden of expectations, without people overanalyzing everything I said or did. And to be frank, the only thing that keeps me doing this is knowing I'm very lucky to have an amazing audience of people. I know you're not just numbers on a view count, you're actually real people, and I'm very grateful I've got to meet so many of you. I sort of need to know, if you're watching, that I'm not going mad here. If there's one thing to take away from this video, it's to remember, on the road ahead, whatever the algorithm throws at you, it's never been more important to call out things that are fundamentally wrong. What you choose to click on has honestly never mattered more. And unfortunately, much of the time, you don't get a choice on what you click on some of the short-form content. We can look at the awful things that are curated for us on screen and accept that as reality, or we can go out into the world and make sense of it for ourselves. But we must remember the bigger picture, because if we don't, I think bad things are going to happen beyond this. I don't want to...
Yeah, to be honest with you guys, I respect him. I respect his opinions. I see he's a bit butthurt, but honestly, who wouldn't be? Especially if you're having, a channel battle with another big creator and they're making accusations on you. I think his points are fair. But with his points that he's making that, he's just another guy profiting off of Japan, I think it's Japan is such a particular case because there has been so much, we've discussed with the case of Venus Angelique, so many Japanophiles really abusing, misunderstanding, misrepresenting, misinterpreting Japanese culture and Japan as a whole. My personal journey with this, because I fell kind of into the trap of when I was a teenager of being a weeaboo and the anime culture and all that kind of stuff, and Japan, oh my god, pokey, blah blah blah. And it was really through deciding to learn the language, because I was always very dedicated to my fandom, so I was I'm gonna take it a step further, I'm gonna learn Japanese. And thank God I did, because, and I don't speak it well, like it was in school. I tried to learn with Duolingo here and there, but thank God I did, because I had a Japanese teacher who prepared me for my leaving cert in Japanese, and she helped me to really understand a little bit more regarding actual Japanese history and actual Japanese culture. And yeah, it was a bit of a wake-up call to realize that Japan was not this this paradise as it was portrayed to be. And that's why I think it's so important to really be careful, like what he's doing. Like, okay, it's nice because he lived there for 12 years, so he knows a lot of things, he can communicate well, especially he's taking it from an outsider's perspective. I think that perspective is valuable, but I think it's also, we should not dismiss actual Japanese perspectives in when talking about Japan, you know. And that's why I think it's a bit of like a shaky ground to walk on, because Japan has been so tokenized and so perverted, not perverted, like taken and made a perversion out of against its will. You know what I mean? Like people try to fetishize. That's the word I'm looking for. Oh, it has been fetishized. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to offend anyone. I meant fetishized. It was fetishized by people. And I think because of how prolific it was, it's such a shaky ground to be representing Japan as a foreigner. But I do think that his perspective is valid, and I'm always curious to see that. Like, there are some Japanese creators that I follow that do content about Japan. But I think it's also important to have a look at how do actual foreigners feel when they go to Japan, because like if I was ever going to make that decision and make that move, I would be a foreigner in Japan. So it's interesting to me personally to see like, okay, like Japanese people live like that, but I know that there are separation in the classes and the layers of society. And, you know, Japan has been a very isolated country, and the experience of being Japanese in Japan and being a foreigner in Japan can be a different experience. That's why, like, I appreciate his point of view for seeing that, because that would be my experience if I was to go there. But also I think it's important to remember, you know, Japanese points of views when talking about Japan and Japanese issues, because I think like in general they're probably more valuable, but for like a curiosity sake of like how would I fare if I was there, his content is also very valuable. Okay, now that I've made this distinction, I'm gonna go because I am hungry. Bitch, I'm hungry. They better get some good food up in here. Bitch, I'm hungry. Sorry, I got Latrice Royale in my head. Thank you so much. I will be back at some stage. I'm gonna cook, I'm gonna make an apple pie, and then I'll come back to finish this thing that I'm doing. I make a good progress. I still have to do the parking lot. But I think, you know what? Screw the signage. Once I'm done with the parking lot, I'm just gonna start editing the video. I have no more time left. Thank you so much. If you liked the chit-chat, the drama of Angel and Venus Angelic, the Cities Skylines build-up, the morning hangout, let me know down below. Like, subscribe, drop a comment. I'll be back later on. I don't know what time. I'll be back when I'll be back. I'm sorry for not being more organized. My condition won't allow me to. I'll be back. And if you want to watch a recording, it'll be on YouTube.